I got 2 tickets to Griffin and David, baby. Come with me Friday. Don't say maybe.
Keep going.
I'm just a teenage podcast baby like you. I got in over my head.
Can
on
you
that
name
what?
The lead singer of Wheatus to me?
No. Do you think there's anything I could have done to get people to turn off this episode faster? I was sort of stuck halfway between
Brendan Brown is
doing his voice, and I feel like that's the one where they have like the female vocalist come in for that one part.
Oh yeah,
right.
Come with me Friday.
Yeah.
You're definitely.
I'm off on both.
I was about to say, like, and I'm not here to like defend Wheatus' honor, but I do think you're doing them a disservice.
Yeah,
it's not that bad.
No, I'm making it terrible. Hey, look, I enjoy that song quite a bit.
Yeah, I had put it to bed.
You had,
it was in the ground,
and let's say you're very good at putting things to bed. You got to put 3 kids to bed a night now.
I just did it.
Yeah.
And I hear it right over the credits of this film.
Yeah.
And of course I'm like, and then I'm immediately saying to Forky, I'm watching this movie with my wife.
Your wife, Forky.
My poor wife.
Your poor utensil wife.
We wanted to finish Andor, but no.
Forky.
Loser has to take precedence.
Yeah.
And I'm like, right, you remember this song? This song is from this movie. No one remembers that it's from this movie. This song was like 10 times more popular than this movie, but the video does have clips from this movie in it.
Not only that, it has new footage. It has both. It has clips from the Amy Heckerling film Loser, and it has Jason Biggs and Mina Suvari acting out the plot of the song Teenage Dirtbag, which is quite different from the plot of Loser. It has a double dose of Biggs and Suvari.
And yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then I was just sort of like, so what's the deal with Wheatus? Because were they new? This was like, it's not like Wheatus had been around. This was their debut album.
Wow. Yeah.
Is it the movie that broke the band?
Yes.
Or is it the band that broke the movie?
Well, the movie didn't break, so
the movie broke nothing. So that's my whole question. It's like, how did this actually sort of surpass the movie?
Well, just let me say this, okay? The reason I mangled that song is because, to your point, I'm looking at this movie, I'm looking at the quotes page at IMDb, I'm like, all of these quotes are very hostile. These are not fun things to recite.
Is it because they're all about Rohypnol?
Yeah, they're about many very different.
This is kind of like a rancid movie, like not in even like a quality way.
Ben and I just watched this
way.
together, and like 30 minutes in, I turned to him and I went, "Is she trying to do salons?" Kind of.
Oh, that's interesting,
right?
I mean, like supposedly she's trying to do The Apartment,
right?
Which I totally see, like
the sort of basic hook is there.
By way of happiness,
but it's with this 90s. I mean, my whole thing is like at a certain point,
it kind of has a bad Woody Allen movie quality to it.
It's got a lot of different bad qualities.
Sorry.
As bad as anything else, the Woody Allen movie that Jason Biggs is in.
Right.
Oh, I have not seen that movie since it came out. We'll talk about Biggs, but no, just as around half hour in, I think for me too. Me and my wife are yelling at each other, and not in a way where we're angry at each other. We are both so thrown by the tone of this movie and the plot of this
But she's
movie.
also Googling divorce on grounds of making me watch Loser.
My husband is a loser.
We're just like, I don't understand. We're just both like kind of like having a bit of a panicky, like, why is it like this? And then we see that quote that's on the Wikipedia page from 20 years later where Heckerling's like, well, I wanted it to be an R-rated movie.
Right.
And that sort of settled us down. Truly, we were like, okay, maybe that helps
There's
us
something
make some
off here.
sense of this.
Heckerling has said since that it was written, designed, shot, greenlit as an R-rated movie, and then at some point the studio panicked and insisted it had to be PG-13, and she said that is the one mistake of that movie.
It's not the only mistake, but certainly if you're like, oh, this is an R-rated movie that they dialed down just enough to get a rating on it,
but she said,
but didn't lose the tone.
I agree with this in the abstract. She said audience can tell when a movie is not what it's trying to be, and that there was just like a rejection of something's broken in this. And yet, I think even in an R-rated cut, I would still probably have all the same larger
questions,
notes.
I have a lot of questions
on story and characterization.
Podcast right
but
now.
Okay, quotes. I'm like, nothing here. What's the tagline for this movie?
Okay, we're back
Dare
to
to be
Wheatus.
different, loser. And I'm
That's
like,
terrible.
This movie isn't remembered. The only thing it's remembered for is launching Teenage Dirtbag. So I might as well quote the song from the soundtrack poorly over anything that's actually
It's
in
so
the text
funny
of the movie itself.
that Teenage Dirtbag did like 10 times better than this movie.
Yeah.
Teenage Dirtbag is absolutely just a one-hit wonder, and they
Totally.
dissolved after
But
a year.
There are things to discuss in the culture around this movie, and that is one of them. On this podcast called Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
I'm David.
It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers. You start out your fucking career with Fast Times at Richmond High.
Sure.
And are given a series of blank checks, make whatever crazy passion products they want. Sometimes those checks clear, like Clueless, and sometimes they bounce, like her direct follow-up to Clueless,
Tough.
Loser.
Tough.
Our guest today, we were talking about this last night and was flummoxed when I told her that this is the direct follow.
Right, that there's nothing in between
'Cause
except the
it's four-
Clueless
I
TV
feel
shows.
I must have had some kind of cultural amnesia.
Right.
We'll
I mean,
dig
there's the
into-
Clueless TV show.
There's the Clueless TV show.
But I
That
will
is
say,
true.
and we're recording a little bit out of order.
Wow.
So this is the last Heckerling we're recording, but there are obviously 2 more that will come out after this.
2 very normal movies.
2 of the most normal movies we've ever covered on this show. And a fact that I got wrong, that JJ is now corrected in the Loser dossier, is that she basically stepped back during the first season of Clueless. And by the time it jumps over UPN, she's basically out. So
I
that
believe I said that.
makes even less sense of the gap.
We're going to talk.
But we're going to talk about it.
Who's our guest?
This is a miniseries on the films of Amy Heckerling.
Whatever.
It's called Pod Times at Richmond Cast.
True.
It's not called Cast Times at Richmond Pod because that would break the cardinal rule of the show, which is that pod has to go before cast.
Is that a cardinal rule?
In my mind, yeah.
I don't think it's ever come up before.
Run it by the cardinal.
They just had their conclave. Give them a break.
Okay, so then
get them all back together.
So
They
that's
just pick the Lou Malnati guy, fucking pizza pope,
the deep dish pope, the beef sandwich pope.
It's so funny that everyone's like, "Hey, a Chicago pope," and it's like this serene man who lived in Peru for decades. He's like, "Hello, how are you?" And everyone's like, "Oh, White Sox, baby!"
Because it's announced and everyone's like, God, the fact that we didn't get a Smigel sketch about this in '96, right?
Yeah.
That Chris Farley couldn't have played Chicago Pope in a Paramount picture.
Oh my God, duh, Pope,
right?
Duh,
Exactly.
Pope. It writes itself.
And then you see the real guy, and you're like, this is the calmest American I have seen in decades. He has no over-the-top characteristics. I'm like, this guy seems balanced as hell.
Well, they did
transatlantic
10
accent.
years. They exorcised the Chicago from him or whatever. Right.
Today we were talking about Loser.
Yeah.
Not Amy Heckerling's last film, but her last studio picture.
I guess that's right. Yeah. Wow.
Where it's the 25th anniversary of Loser. Everyone can't stop talking about it. And today, joining us for the first time on the show,
we have broken the cardinal rule. I had to check this.
Okay.
The cast of the Podhekins.
Fuck. That
might be it.
Because listeners have been like, why the fuck wouldn't he do Cast Times when AST is right there in the title?
A fair question.
And I was like, the rule must be upheld. But now I'm realizing it was all for naught.
We've only
Cast the Podhekins, and that's
we've
the same
only
thing.
done it once.
That was an AST. I had to. Fuck.
Yeah. What can I tell you?
Decade of nightmares.
Who's our guest, please?
Our guest today is the great Chandler Levack, director of I Like Movies.
Say your name louder. You went all quiet.
I didn't get the last name incorrect, did I?
Oh, you did.
Fuck!
I knew you were going to get it wrong.
It's okay. You brought the biggest loser of them all.
Not true. Chandler Levack.
Thank you. Yes.
There we go.
Hard ack.
Ack.
Like the Kathy
Ack.
Right, Kathy.
The Martian.
Mars Attacks.
Yes. Director of I Like Movies. One of my favorite films the last couple of years, which I've shouted out a lot.
Oh, thanks, Griff. Yeah. Thank you for the supporting actress nomination at the Blankies. Very
deserved. Incredible performance. Another name I believe I mispronounced in that episode. Romina
Dugo.
Fuck.
You're doing great.
I'm not. I'm a mess. I'm a mess.
Nothing throws you more than Canadian names, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know if Romina's Canadian.
She is.
There you go.
Yeah. Dan, I'm checking
From
my
the
notes
great-
here. Akeroyd?
He is in this movie. I don't
He
know
is.
if you noticed.
Oh
a great
yeah, he's
Canadian.
a very doting dad,
Kind of
Midwestern father.
brings the thunder for a couple scenes. I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
We're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Jamie Simpson, though, that's my guy.
Chandler?
Well, there's guys, and I am
Chock full
going
of
to.
guys.
And Zach Orth, who I love. Okay.
I love Zach Orth. There's a lot to
Tom
talk about.
Sadowski.
That's the one where
Pretty
I had
boy,
a
Tom
brain
Sadowski.
aneurysm. I was sent to the hospital for
Right.
50 weeks, and then I came out of it, and I was like, "You're sure that's Thomas Sadowski?"
Right. I was like, this guy, I was certain Tom Sadowski was born at the age of 37,
Just
straight into the second stage rep company.
Again, my wife had to witness it when I was, Jamie Simpson. And then, because I guess I wasn't paying attention during the credits. And then I see Sadowski and I'm like, who is that?
Yeah.
Like, she's going to know. And I'm like, who is that?
Yes.
And then when I find out it's him, I was like, he looks like this now. And
Yes.
my wife was like, okay. And I was like, you don't understand. This is so far from what this
He's
guy
like-
settled on.
Right. One of the great normal guy, quote unquote, character
You know what I
actors.
love Sadowski in?
What?
Sadowski blocked me on Twitter, by the way.
For what?
I have no idea.
He
I
knew
truly don't
someday
know.
you were going to review Loser. He heard the premise of the podcast, and he's like, they'll get to Heckerling within a decade.
I just remember that he blocked me on Twitter. I love him in John Wick. He never comes back.
Yeah.
He just shows up
He's
for
the
that one
cop.
scene being like, hey, John, how you doing?
Yeah. Are Chandler, Ben, are you familiar with who Tom Sadowski? Do you know who we're talking about?
I
No.
don't. I
He's
don't
one
know.
of the three bad guys.
He's the sort of gothy
The
one with the
hunky-
painted nails.
Yes,
The hunky
possibly
one.
possibly the most evil of
I
the
think so.
three. Yes.
He's the most aggressively evil.
Yes. He's the most evil. And then
Sort of the
Zach
leader.
Orth, who's the kind of bigger one, is kind of, he's evil. And then
Yeah.
Jimmy Simpson's sort of stupid.
And he's become this great
Yeah.
character actor who kind of plays like slightly offbeat normal guy types.
Wow.
And is the ultimate
Oh,
just
wait.
kind of looks like a dude. He was on the Newsroom. He does a ton of theater.
He was wasn't he in Always Sunny as a recurring part?
No,
That's
you're
Jimmy Simpson.
Okay.
who's one of the McPoyle twins.
Right.
Right.
This is the guy with the darker hair, and he's like really a pretty boy, and he's got the painted nails and the sort of stud bracelet and
okay.
whatever.
He's the one who's fully nude, I think, in one scene.
We were trying to parse what like
Or
his
he- I
dick
think-
was out or
I
something.
think, again, this is an R-rated
That's what
thing.
Amy Heckerling wants. She gets to get her Fast Times retribution.
My
Sure.
what I could sort of gauge
His
is
shirt
maybe,
is open and his nips are out.
I think he's wearing essentially like a sort of G-string maybe or something. You know what I mean? Like
think he's wearing a sort of G-string, maybe.
the thing with
It was
Sadowski,
syllable for syllable perfect.
it was great.
He worded it in a way
He
that
looks
fit
like
into the
this
song
now.
perfectly.
He looks like this.
I just couldn't sing
He
it
looks
well.
normal.
He's the guy in the newsroom though who tells the pilot
That they
on
got
the plane
Osama.
that they got Osama
Yeah.
in one of
That
those
clip that
great gas leak
recirculates all the
scenes
time.
from the newsroom.
The point is, he is such an evil pretty boy in this that's very incongruous with who he turned out to be. But also, he is married to Amanda Seyfried.
Oh,
what?
that's right.
Yes.
Wow.
They have 2 children together and live in upstate New York. She plays her fucking harpsichord.
Go off, she does.
Yeah.
She plays the harpsichord.
She plays funky instruments.
Oh yeah, I saw her Joni Mitchell.
Yes.
Beautiful.
She plays the dulcimer.
There we go.
That's a nice
Here,
line.
Amanda Seyfried play enchanting Joni Mitchell song on the dulcimer. But like what, on the Tonight Show? On the fucking Tonight Show? So
On the
like
Tonight Show.
Fallon's just like, this is great. While she's like working the dulcimer.
Chandler,
Okay.
you are a writer-director.
Yes.
You are a Torontonian.
I'm sorry, this is a late night episode, so I'm a little jacked up.
We should say this. So you are, we can't say what it is, but you
You're
are
working on something.
in the tri-state area prepping a new movie.
Mhm.
And because of the absolute opposite schedules of someone who is prepping a motion picture and a podcaster who has 3 children, the only time we could make this work was 8 p.m. on Memorial Day.
Hell
That's
yeah.
right.
This is our first evening record since like deepest, darkest
Since
lockdown.
pandemic, I think.
Wow.
There was a window where David Forky was pregnant.
Yeah.
And
That
there
was a
was
long time ago.
construction in my building
That was the
would
reason.
run every
Right,
day.
We had to do it at night.
from like 8 until 3. And then by the
Yeah.
time the construction stopped, your wife was off from work.
Yeah. I had to make dinner.
Zoom work. And you were
Yeah.
like, I have to take care of her until she falls asleep. I can't start recording until she's asleep.
9 o'clock. We
there
would
were
start
like
at 9.
4 months of episodes that would start at 9
I mean, we didn't
PM
have
every night.
a lot else going on
no,
in our lives.
no, I would actually say it was quite a bad period of time.
What? You sure?
But it does feel like this is an energy we haven't tapped into in a
Well,
while.
I'm not drinking anything but lemonade.
Soda pop. Oh, lemonade.
But I am a little jacked up.
You are a filmmaker. You're a Torontonian. You're here prepping a movie.
The best city in the world.
Experience both filming in Toronto and now getting ready to film in the tri-state area. You told me last night that The Apartment is basically your favorite movie of all time.
It is, yeah.
And
I love Amy Heckerling, like, deeply.
I heard you had gotten this job and you were going to be in town, and I reached out and it just felt like Loser was a good fit. And you were like, isn't that one of the big Toronto pretending to be New York movies?
Yes.
I think I can weigh in on this very
He's
on the metro there.
I can tell you every single location and what it actually is.
But like when it's so jarring because there is some New York location stuff.
There is, yeah.
And then he'll be on a subway platform or there'll be an insert shot of a subway of a New York, and then they'll cut to the Toronto Metro.
Yeah, it's 100% the Toronto. Well, it's Union Station masquerading as Grand Central Station.
Yes, right.
Yes. And then I think
there is one. No, but there's one scene that's in Grand Central. When she falls asleep,
yes.
that's Grand Central.
In the sort of information area.
Yeah. But
and then I think they're using like a sliver of Union Station as like an NYU classroom or library.
Or for the library, when there's like big chairs.
Yeah, with like the big bus of heads and stuff.
Yes,
the
absolutely.
Location work
and then you
on
can
this movie
see
is
like
insane.
they're in a Timothy's one, and you can see a Great Canadian Bagel sign, which was like a 90s Toronto chain. The movie store they go to is the Review. It's an old movie theater on the
Spade?
Yeah, it's an old movie video store that a lot of my friends worked at.
Okay, so here's a question.
Did David Spade work there? Would he like pop out and be like, "Hey, buddy,"
and they'd be
buddy.
like, "Aren't you on Just Shoot Me Now?"
Hey, like not going on. I can't do Spade.
Yeah,
and they walk past Lee's Palace, which is a famous like rock venue.
Of course,
yeah, shooting on the Danforth.
But they say it's Webster Hall. Like, that's the weird thing is they're picking very specific Canadian places, Toronto locations, and then just like doing 5% of effort to be like, no, it's actually this different, very specific. I'm going to
give them credit. I think they do 10% of effort.
Okay.
I was apart from the subway, which you kind of can't fake.
It is just
if you're using a different subway, it's going to look wrong.
I know you're obviously a big. You have such a bullshit detector for this kind of thing. But when you're watching him on a subway car and you're like, there has never been an MTA car that looks like this.
I recognize the Toronto
Of course.
Metro,
But then they bother to put up the New York MTA map behind him. There's always that sort of like my brain is short-circuiting of like you're putting
I'm in a dream.
One real detail on the fake thing.
For sure.
That video store you said it's called?
It was called Review Cinema.
Is it gone?
It's sadly gone, but a lot of great Canadian filmmakers work there, like Kazik Redwanski.
Oh, cool.
And my friend Simon Ennis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they do the organized by director thing?
They did. I think I heard they had to actually reorganize the cinema for Loser to make it more mainstream. And
wild.
Because it was too art house, and they didn't. But he does try to rent the piano.
Yes. He's between two blank check movies, The Piano and When Harry Met Sally.
That's true.
And when David Spade is recommending Simon Birch to him, which Ben noticed is blurred out.
They blurred out, yeah.
And
they couldn't get the rights?
If they blurred it out in post or they blurred out the prop.
I couldn't tell either, but no, I think it's an actual Simon Birch case.
It just looks fuzzy.
But no, and then I think probably someone was like, hey, we didn't clear that. Because there's another thing in this movie.
This is a Columbia picture? Yeah.
Sure. The Coda, I can't believe you bought a Blu-ray for this thing.
This is the hardest I have ever
so demented.
worked to track down a physical copy of a movie ever on this show.
Oh my God.
It's an Australian-only release. It doesn't have special features. It doesn't have subtitles. The menu has one button, which is just play. It doesn't even have scene selection. And it was like, I had to set up like so many fucking search alert, Google alert, eBay alerts, because these things never fucking go on sale. But I got it.
Wow.
He got it. What was it? The not to cut to the coda of this film, but there's a little post ending, infos on like what happened to everybody, right? There's 2 typos.
Yes.
And I was just like, did nobody, or was the vibe just kind of like, whatever, man, just get the fucking movie out.
The coda on this has big Mission Impossible Final Reckoning energy where you're like, was this typed 5 minutes before I started watching the movie?
Anyway, Loser.
Loser.
I can't believe I didn't see this film in theaters though.
Kind of same.
Because I loved Amy Heckerling. I loved Clueless, and I went to see anything back in 2000.
Too.
Like
I remember being really excited for it.
I was excited too, and then it got such horrible reviews.
Yes.
I think I was hooked into the Wheatus marketing. I think Wheatus actually
Wheatus got you.
It really did. It got me through the door.
Well, asking why did the Wheatus song pop when this movie didn't, right? I do think it is that thing of having the double force of energy of a record label that's trying to launch the Wheatus album and Columbia Pictures also putting their muscle behind it to try to use the song to promote the movie. It felt like there were two forces pushing what is admittedly a very catchy song out there.
It has Dirtbag in the title.
Totally.
I'm just empty.
It was
You did it
guaranteed
better
to
than
be
I
a hit.
did.
You get a good catchy melody, you fucking throw the word dirtbag in there.
But
it's such a weird song. He
It's
starts
one of
going on about Iron Maiden.
And her boyfriend brings a gun to school.
It's him.
She rings my bell.
Yeah.
It's him relating some story from
Yes.
his past.
Yes.
But then, and then they just go, but I'm just, and everyone's like, yeah, that's the part we like.
Yeah.
But if you sing that in a karaoke bar today,
everyone will pop
it's
off.
Just, it's like lighting in a
kills.
bottle.
I mean, are they, I always bring this up. Like Semisonic is the example I always think of. Are they a band that has to open and close with Teenage Dirtbag?
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing to think about.
Absolutely.
People, they come out and people are like, fucking do it right now. They're like, okay. And then at the end, they're like, you better do it again. I'm not walking out of here without it again.
It feels like the song
I saw Hanson recently.
Did they do Improv twice?
They did do Improv
Wow.
twice.
Damn right. And Hanson has at least a few other songs.
Between 7 Bill Withers covers. I was like,
All
I
right,
didn't
that
come
rocks.
see Hanson do Bill Withers songs.
Hanson rocks. Good for you going to see Hanson.
Redone their whole vibe, right? But they also know they can't do a show without playing.
They're actually very depressing. And one of the brother, he drummed and ate a sandwich at the same time.
That does rule. Was I misremembering? No, there isn't a Hanson song in this. This time
There's
around,
everything else.
the later Hanson song I heard in something the other day where it almost knocked my socks off.
This soundtrack includes Pretty Fly for a White Guy by The Offspring, Blue by Eiffel 65, What's My Age Again by Blink 182,
Bad Touch by the Bloodhound Gang.
2 Bloodhound Gang songs.
Wow.
Aurora by the Foo Fighters, of course, a performance from Everclear for us.
Oh,
Yes.
Out of My Head, Fastball, another one-hit wonder.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I don't remember this, but apparently the British boy band Five have a song.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
Fight It, Baby.
That's in when he has the graduation party.
Okay.
Because I was like, what is this
Five?
fake NSYNC song?
Also, an SAT question.
5 were fake and sync to a T.
Finish the pattern. Of course, 2 further songs on the soundtrack. Scarborough Fair by Simon and Garfunkel and Sonata in C Major by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
I don't
we
think
have to
those
talk
two
about
made
that
the CD.
Not the CD.
We have to talk about the long graduate homage that happens for no reason.
Look, there's a long graduate homage. You see a bit of cabaret performed.
You see, literally, it's an artifact. You're watching Cabaret as the original
Sam
revival.
Mendes.
I turned to Ben and I'm like,
Coming.
I'm kind of glad they captured this.
It's wonderful.
That's
nice
one
that
of the
there's a
best
record
scenes
of
in the
it.
movie.
It is, I think, without a doubt, the best scene in the movie. There's not even anything that comes close.
Here's my favorite part of that scene. When the camera pans away from Jason Biggs and Mina Savari and then just watches Alan Cumming tear up Cabaret for 40 seconds.
And then you're just like, fuck,
this rules.
I watched this.
They're like, I wish this was it.
The other thing with this movie is, again, I'm watching it with my wife. Mina Suvari pops up. And I'm like, this is Mina Suvari. You know Mina Suvari? And she's like, no. No. And I'm like, right. I guess it was basically a 2-year window. Mina Suvari's fame was brief.
It's so quick. Chandler
She's
and I
in
were
3
talking about
movies:
this.
American Pie, American Beauty, American Virgin.
That all come out within 18 months of each other.
Correct. I mean, American Virgin, of course, had Robert Loggia and Bob Hoskins, 2 guys you definitely want in a movie called American Virgin.
But then I was digging in, and she has 3 further American titles later in her
she's got
career.
American Pie 2. Let's not forget that.
An American Reunion.
Is she in that one?
Yeah.
I think
she's not in Wedding. She's back for Reunion.
Everyone's
back for
I
Reunion.
forgot what Reunion was. I thought Reunion was Wedding.
No.
I forgot that they did a 4.
No. 60% of the cast is cut from Wedding.
Right.
Everyone's brought back for Reunion at a bargain. price. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was she going to be? Like when Mina Suvari, like
It's a great question.
What
I was
exactly
thinking
the
this
question?
while watching it, because there was certainly a 2-year period where we were all the right age to be like, I guess she's important. And you step back now and you're like, what was the roadmap people thought was going to play out ahead of her?
I don't.
For her career.
Yeah, like who's like best case scenario?
There's not really a comp.
No.
And it's
not
also
for as a star.
No, and I also think like if you go
like Sybil Shepherd, maybe.
That's incredibly generous.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just thinking
Sybil
about like
Shepherd's had a great career.
That is true, but I'm thinking about like the Last Picture Show and kind of being this like breakout.
Yeah, like a young ingenue. Yeah, in like a coming of age movie.
She's a much odder version of that in American Beauty. Like she's not the conventional. Yeah.
When you watch American Beauty, it's not like she's bad in American Beauty.
No.
She's totally appropriate for the role. Like she gets it, but she's like. She's not as good as Thora Birch or Wes Bentley anyway.
No.
They're giving better performances. I mean, whatever you think about that movie, like
it's probably the least compelling performance in the movie.
It is.
Well, also, the movie writes her character very unintelligently. It is a very ungenerous characterization. Yeah,
but she plays the big scene in that movie really well, which is her like
when
dropping the
when he realizes that she's
arrive on her boobs.
Yeah, when the petals arrive on her. I guess, you know what, Griffin, that's what it was, though. It wasn't, it was American Beauty.
Imagery.
She was the image of American Beauty. She's the tummy.
Yes.
I know it's not actually her tummy. But
yes.
like, and she's the rose, garnered woman, whatever.
But American
what a
Pie.
Weird time in America.
American Pie comes out that same year.
Yes, but that's the worst. She's the worst part of that movie.
I disagree with that.
Yeah, you defend the what the fuck is his name?
Chris Klein.
Mina Suvari part of American Pie, which is
that's very sweet.
Ass.
Thank you.
I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like when they sing all those show choir songs.
I like those scenes just fine. I mean, they're fine.
The worst part of the movie is inarguably Tara Reid and
Thomas Ian Nicholas.
Completely disagree. That part of the movie rocks because
they're so boring.
Well, they're not very
They're
good.
so boring.
No offense to the misperformance, but I agree that they're not top notch.
Yeah.
But I just love that their storyline resolves with they have sex and it's bad. It's so good. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie. They just are on top of each other awkwardly, and they're like, yeah, that was okay. Everyone else obviously has like insane, shit happen to them.
Well, of course, Mina Suvari and Chris Klein don't have sex.
They don't have
which
sex,
is what makes them a little different.
Yeah. Just fucking have sex.
David's doing a jerk-off motion.
But, right, it's like, what's his pants bangs Stifler's mom, and Jason Biggs fucks a pie. And those two, it's just like, yeah, we had sex. It sucked. We're 18 years old. We don't know what we're doing.
And dismissive about two of the most important things that ever happened in American cinema.
What was that? Oh, the pie and Stifler's
Finch
mom.
fucking Stifler's mom and Jason Biggs fucking dessert pastry.
It is weird to think about this movie getting financed off those two actors in that movie.
100%. That it's like, okay, fucking American Pie. You got some American Pies in it? Great. It's a movie. Cool. You want some money?
So we were talking about this a little bit.
Can we make Union Station look like NYU?
Chandler and I hung out last night. We were talking about this
What's
a little
the wig
bit.
budget? $1. One beastly dollar.
The Suvari conversation's interesting, right?
Sure.
And the Biggs conversation's interesting, but you zoom out and it's like, it's hard to actually think of an analog of what happened after American Pie, where that movie was such a big hit and it had such an ensemble cast.
Yes.
Biggs kind of got
it's an
framed as the
ensemble
default lead.
Of young, cute American actors.
In this kind of
do something with
American
them.
graffiti sort of way.
Yeah.
Right? And Hollywood was just like, math would tell us that at least two of these people are going to end up being major lasting movie stars, right? And no one could figure out who it was, and none of them worked long term.
We decided that Natasha Lyonne is the only one.
She is the obvious
26 years later,
survivor.
There is no question that Natasha Lyonne is, in present moment, the most successful American Pie alum.
Aside from Jennifer Coolidge.
Let's leave Coolidge aside.
Okay,
and and let's not talk about the Shermanator.
But I was going to say,
we settled
on last night was that the top
Allison
three
Hannigan.
would
Hannigan is 2.
I think number 2 is Cho.
No, Hannigan is 2. We're talking about who's on the
poster?
iconic poster of American Pie.
Okay, so number 2 is Hannigan,
Yes,
but
we're
let's
not
say
talking about bit parts.
Hannigan is kind of semi-retired.
Nonetheless, Alison Hannigan is in 2 gigantic TV shows.
Queen of fucking residuals. She also hosted like 8 seasons of Penn and Teller's CW show, where she'd show up like 2 days a year and probably get millions of
Ben
dollars.
is making the appropriate. Who cares?
Penn and Teller fool us.
That's like a 0.1
100
WAR.
syndication. I'm saying she has 3 syndication series.
Leone,
Yes.
Hannigan.
Yes.
Number 3 is Sean William Scott, right? No question.
But
Yeah.
also a guy who's slowed way down.
I don't know. What
he's-
about just flutes?
Flutes, they're back.
Yeah.
In.
And pies.
Okay, and pies too.
In fact,
Foreign
I know.
exchange
Let's keep
students?
this going.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm doing the
Moms,
whole
milfs.
poster.
Do the whole
Because this
poster.
is actually, because like I do think it's like Leone, Hannigan, Sean William Scott is number 3 for sure. He's had a
I'm
career.
not disagreeing with that.
He's been above the title.
I'm
and
just
things.
saying that Leone's the best right now, and Hannigan and
Bullshit,
Williams
hey.
had the best careers after the movie.
Hey, should I rank everyone like Natasha Leone?
Leone had a bad period in between.
I had a bad period in between.
And now she's doing great.
Did I get that Oscar nomination for His Three Daughters?
I'm just trying to explore storytelling opportunities.
I think 4 is. I think 4 is Biggs.
True. That's sadly true.
Biggs is 4.
I think you're right.
I think Biggs is 4.
Which feels wrong, but I think you're right.
He's a gentleman's
around.
4.
He's around. He's a gentleman's 4.
I think. Now it's tough.
It gets tough.
Yeah.
Now I'm between Klein and Suvari.
I think Clyde because he had the election bump.
I
Yeah.
gotta go for Suvari. She's in a Best Picture winner,
That's fair.
and she's in Loser, a film we're discussing today.
Yes.
we're not discussing the Chris Klein oeuvre right
Right? Which we have done
We
before. and
have.
we'll do again.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Yeah, you'll talk about Chris.
Suvari has got a ton of credits.
She does.
She keeps working.
But yet, I was looking at her Wikipedia, and I was so ready to discover.
she played Jane Wyman in the Reagan movie last year.
Yes.
So
Wow.
she's working.
She did some TV show in the last couple of years that also had American in the title.
Yeah, you're really hooked on the
American Women
thing.
or
I
American
don't
Woman
know.
or whatever the fuck it's called. She is a
American
perfect
Woman, it was called.
example of I'm pulling up her Wikipedia, and I'm like, I'm about to find out that Mina Suvari has quietly been on
Sure, like a cop show.
FBI Seattle
Oh yeah.
for 9 seasons, right? And she has
FBI Spokane.
she has worked consistently, but there is no thing
No.
like that.
No, but she has worked.
She's
a
worked
lot.
consistently. Yeah.
Do you think she works in this movie? You think
I-
she's miscast? Would
I
it be
kinda-
better with Alison Hannigan?
I kind of like her in this.
I think she works.
Natasha Leone would be a much better.
Hey, I'd make
Yeah,
a lot of sense.
I
in this
will
movie.
watch that
well,
movie.
yes, it kind of feels like it was built for Leone. In a
I've kind
way.
of been, hey, but I was kind of having a tough time then. But I think she works in this movie. I think the character is written a little tough for pretty much anyone to totally. She's playing it. Look, my whole problem with this movie, which really kind of threw me for a loop.
It was meant to be rated R and it's PG-13 instead. That's the only problem anyone could
Great
have with
case.
this movie. Laptop shut.
Is like both Biggs and Suvari are quite saintly and good in this movie.
Yes,
Yes.
that was my problem. At the beginning of the movie, he saves the cat like 16 times.
And they
They-
never really introduce flaws. So
No.
with Biggs, you're
Yes.
kind of like, bitch, you're clearly smart and nice. Like, just go meet some people. What the
Right.
fuck is the matter with you? And cut your hair.
The
And then with
Suvari,
Suvari, you're
yes.
like, you are too smart
Sure.
to be behaving this way. And I know people, get in bad relationships and do toxic things and whatever.
Yeah.
But you're just kind of like, you're not written well enough for any of this to really make sense. She's kind of too level-headed.
No, and you have no context of who she is outside of Jason Biggs.
Who is she calling
and
on the phone?
like
Her mom.
her mother's just like, okay, get the train
I-
when you
Her
can.
I
Virgin
could
Tunnel
not
mom.
tell if that was her mom or like a grandma. The way she talked about her
Yeah.
parents, the emancipation. There's so many questions I have
Yes.
about this
No,
movie.
and, like,
I'm
that's
really upset.
A key point of the apartment is when when Shirley MacLaine's who is the
Where-
brother-in-law,
sure.
sister's
yeah, I
husband?
haven't seen it in
Comes
20
in
years.
and rescues her, and you get this really interesting snapshot into that character's
into
life.
what's going
and-
on with
Yeah.
her.
But she just only exists
There's a tennis
as a
racket, the pasta.
We should just directly say that this movie is an unofficial kind of retelling of The Apartment. It has too much in common to be accidental. And
it's
yet,
inspired by, but then it's got other stuff going on too.
It's inspired by, it's not legally a remake of The Apartment. And yet there are things that are legally remakes of other movies that have less in common with the original film.
What concert did they go to?
In The Apartment? No, they go to an Everclear concert.
Oh, cool.
No, it's the same band.
Big band Everclear.
It's at Webster Hall too.
Yeah, right. Oh, fuck, I wish I could do Lemon saying like, hey, do you want to go see Everclear? I wish I could do Lemon. Do Lemon.
No, but that's a beat in The
Apartment.
Apartment.
Like AM radio?
They're supposed to go to see the Broadway play.
Right.
Yeah. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
they're supposed to see The Music Man.
Yeah.
But of course, in The Apartment, you're like, this is incredibly like risque and subversive for the time. And also it's about grown-ups, like, you know, and it's about guys cheating on their girlfriends and wives and stuff, right? Whereas in Loser, it's like they're freshmen in college. Why this device doesn't make as much sense.
So I just want to say, Ben has never seen The Apartment. We're watching this together. We come to the office. We watch Loser together. A couple cool guys watching Loser.
Just jacking off.
I'm so sad that you had to see Loser before you get to see The Apartment.
It is
you'll
sad.
watch The Apartment now and you're like, no Loser. No Everclear. Where's Alan coming? I don't see him.
As I said, I brought over some pizza and some Mountain Dew and we had to chill in and watch Loser in the office. And Ben was like, what is this plot? And I was like, well, it's The Apartment. And then he gave me a blank stare. And I was like, oh, have you never seen The Apartment? Here's the basic shape of The Apartment. A film that, by the way, won Best Picture.
And is a good movie.
It is like
a masterpiece.
It is kind of considered one of the like crown jewels of
wasn't just
Hollywood filmmaking.
But it wasn't just a Best Picture winner. It endures because it was, for the time, a very adult movie, like that was, you know, like ahead of its time.
It is
like,
one of the only
themes.
comedies to ever win Best Picture. So it's talked about a lot in that context of like how few have won. And one of the reasons it won, and I guess it was sort of seen as a surprise, is that it is this movie that does this very deft balancing act of tones where it gets into some really dark and heavy shit and doesn't feel glib about it, but also feels like it gives it an appropriate amount of weight. The basic setup of that movie is that Jack Lemmon is, dare I say it, a bit of a loser. CeCe Baxter, who's kind of like an underling at sort of just like a clock in and clocking out desk job. And all the other guys at the firm are always kind of taking advantage of him, much like this trio of truly sadistic dorm mates that Jason Biggs has, right? But this guy's thing he does to get in good with the other guys who don't like him is he offers up his apartment. He will give them the keys so they can use his apartment to sleep with their mistresses before they go home to their wives. And so everyone kind of uses this guy as a doormat, and he thinks eventually this will be rewarded with people giving me the promotion, giving me respect, whatever it is. He has a massive crush on Shirley MacLaine, who's kind of like the original.
I get it.
Right. And it's like her in like pixie haircut. She's got a sparky attitude.
She's an elevator operator.
She's an elevator operator. He's in love with her. She's very sweet to him, but feels like, I don't know, he lacks the edge or whatever, right? And his boss says that he will like give him the promotion he wants if he lets him use the apartment as well. And he slowly puts together that the boss is using the apartment to sleep with Shirley MacLaine.
Damn.
Just to speak to The Apartment's Best Picture win, I realize this is a tangent. The 1960 Oscars, it was the only choice. The other nominees are The Alamo, which is terrible, Elmer Gantry's Sons and Lovers, and The Sundowners, all of which are like okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
But none are movies that really endured.
Yeah.
But the movie that the Oscars didn't have the balls, I'm going to say it,
It's 1960 or 1961?
To nominate 1960 is Psycho, which gets a Best Director nomination out of kind of a like, good job with that.
And it gets both supportings? Or did they not nominate Perkins?
No, they didn't nominate Perkins. They only nominated Janet Leigh for dying.
Yeah, why?
Spoiler alert for Psycho.
Yeah.
She dies.
She does.
But Psycho, I imagine, was the other big smash of the year, but it was a little too lurid for them.
Yes.
But The Apartment's a masterpiece.
It is. Now, like something like Guess Who, right, is like, in terms of actual structure of contracts, an actual remake of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner that like does not mirror the plot at all. Whereas this mirrors it in like such weird ways, but then the ways in which it diverts are so much stranger.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about Greg Kinnear's character and how he's supposed to be
regular.
Like the Fred McMurray,
Yeah.
you know. But, you know, in The Apartment, that character seems like an upstanding guy, like a really good, principled
that's
guy.
the twist.
Greg Kinnear is pure
Yes.
fucking evil in this movie in this way that I think, I will say it, and I love Amy Heckerling. I love a lot of her movies. I've criticized some of them on this podcast.
Sure.
Horribly written. Because, like, the movie begins with him basically being like, I'm just such a slut for teen love. I love you. I'm your professor. Like, he's saying everything out loud.
Yes.
He's just being disgusting at her. And you're just like, this guy's completely charmless. Like, no one would be interested in this guy.
Right.
The fact that Mina Suvari is interested in him, Greg Kinnear as a smart English college professor, you can make that work for me.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, him playing a slime ball is a little obvious, and I'm sure Greg Kinnear kind of sighed when he got the script, like, because he was kind of getting these roles a lot by this point.
Yeah,
but it's like you want the slime.
He's charmless. He's so nasty to her
from the get go.
It's
from
the same
the first scene.
It's the same role he plays in You've Got Mail.
But like in You've Got Mail, I mean, he's pretty annoying, but you can kind of see it, and he's a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
Again, it's like that's what Greg Kinnear was good at. And he's awful in this, but I don't think it's his fault because the character is horrible.
Well, like to Chandler's point, like in the apartment, right? The whole thing that makes the dynamic interesting is it's breaking his heart that he is letting his boss, who he is played by Fred McMurray, who is like a fucking Disney stock company actor.
Yeah, he had never done anything like, I think it was pre-Double Indemnity, so it was like very subversive.
A wonderful actor, a guy who kind of was like a little bit of a Greg Kinnear equivalent, where it's just like it feels like something subversive about this guy who looks kind of like a Ken doll, revealing this kind of slime, right? But like this guy is having this, like, is dying inside at the notion that he's letting his boss take advantage of the girl that he truly has feelings for in order to sort of like help his career, right? That he is sort of complicit in this.
We have to drop The Apartment after this, because comparing this movie to The Apartment is just going to make us crazy.
That's so
sure.
true.
But I'm like, having never seen this movie before, I was like, doing college apartment isn't a terrible idea. Using a dorm room in that way, a teacher sleeping with a student where there's something that needs to be kept secret.
I guess, but teacher sleeping
kind of makes sense in that casting.
Sure, like I just said, he did. I mean, yes, he does. But teacher sleeping with student is a much bigger violation. So you're already kind of like
absolutely.
But again, it's more just that he just is mean to her, and not mean in like a cute way.
No.
And he seems boring. Like,
and
they don't even
sucks.
do anything.
And they have no sexual chemistry. There's no sex in this movie.
Excuse me, he lies next to her in bed reading the New York Times book review. They do a lot of things together.
He has that weird line where he's like, I think my whole body just relaxed.
It's fucking Daniel Bruhl getting asked to play a fifth Nazi. Kinnear's like, who am I? Oh, I'm another slime ball. Great. Yeah, it's great. I'll do it. Yeah, that's fine. Like, it's like, You've Got Mail, Mystery Men.
Yep.
Nurse Betty.
Mystery Men, another film with the sort of loser status of All-Star becomes a hit while the movie flops.
While the movie's forgotten.
That was a great time.
But
incredible time.
His role
like
in Nurse Betty is exactly that too, right?
Yep.
He's a look, everyone thinks he's cute, but he's an asshole.
I feel like there's
loser.
another one right
the
around
Gift.
Here. Oh yeah.
Like where it's just this Someone Like You, which is the next year, the Ashley Judd movie, where it's like, I guess I'll be with, Greg Kinnear, who sucks, and Hugh Jackman's like, how you doing, mate? I know he doesn't have
all of his movies for a while were, I'm a nice guy, wink.
Right. And then in like 2002, he's like, give me an Oscar movie. And it's like, great, do you want to play Bob Crane? And he's like, isn't that guy who fucking jacked off with his friend? It's like, yeah, sorry.
What about As Good as It Gets? At least he got.
Well, that's before.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, he's awesome in that movie.
So
I think
good.
it's a wonderful
But that was
performance.
the thing.
Right.
That was his launch.
Here's this guy who's like a talk show host, and it was like, no one's ever going to take him seriously as an actor because he's like a lightweight talk show
He's the
host.
fucking talk soup
He's
guy.
the talk soup guy.
Right.
And then they cast him in Sabrina. That flops. Everyone's like, see, that's what you get for casting a talk show host.
No, Sabrina's before. Oh, sure. Right. Sabrina's before.
And then As Good as It Gets is the moment of like, he proved everyone wrong. Greg Kinnear's got the goods. And then what you've just outlined is basically the post As Good as It Gets.
After, yes.
Like, it felt like he had won the argument in theory of, you deserve to be in movies. We take you seriously. And then he got pigeonholed into this sort of thing.
Do you think anyone remembers that he's in Little Miss Sunshine?
I think he's incredibly
He's totally good in it, but it's like, is that the most forgotten performance in that movie?
Even weirdly more than Toni Collette, whose character actually was not written.
Sure.
Every line of dialogue she has in the script just says TBD.
She's just kind of
she's good
at that
She's
shit,
like,
right?
you go.
Yes.
Yeah, do it.
The reason I'm bringing up the apartment thing for Ben's perspective, and I know you don't want to harp on this, is just it is fascinating to me that in the basic setup of this movie, it's not about him working out a deal with the fucking professor. It's about his like fucking dorm mates just hazing him for 90 minutes.
Again.
And then like date drugging the girl and then him
Yes.
having to like save her versus like in the apartment where it's like everything's a lot tighter.
Yeah, they had the apartment right there.
Right there.
We're gonna officially close this discussion with the verdict.
You're gonna close
the
the door?
apartment is better than Loser.
Okay.
Controversial, but I
Yeah.
can accept it.
The thing about Loser, here's what I knew about Loser, apart from
Yeah, you knew that her name is Noelle.
Is it though?
No, it's not.
I was like, okay, Jason Biggs plays a loser.
Mhm.
He's got a silly hat.
Shape of an L on his forehead.
He falls
Uh-huh.
down the stairs.
A lot.
But there's the big fall down the stairs because that was in like the trailer. Or
Right.
whatever.
And what does he say? He makes some joke about like Jerry Lewis, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah, that's what Greg Kinnear says.
Yeah.
He's got silly hair.
He boy does he.
Boy, does he. Another thing my wife was freaking out about, where she was just like, I don't understand the wig.
Right. Watching this movie makes you want to take a pair of scissors and like try to cut through the TV screen.
Just stop.
It's so insane.
His
no
hair,
hair is so much better than this.
his
Shave your
hair is
head.
finally cut in the last scene of the movie and
Yes.
is clearly just Jason Biggs' natural hair versus this insane wig of death they're giving him the whole time. And he shows up with the real hair and I turn to Ben and I go, I'm immediately 5% less annoyed with this movie. Why couldn't it have been this
25%.
the whole time?
There's a whole makeover montage.
Right.
And
Why
they
isn't
don't
that
cut
in the middle of the
hair.
movie?
Like,
Yeah.
It's actually like unconscionable for like an audience to have to look at that hair for a whole
I agree.
movie.
It's a terrible wig. And like,
yes.
and we'll talk about it. But all I knew going in was like, hey, he's a loser. He goes to college.
Mm-hmm.
People are mean to him. He struggles to fit in. He figures it out, I assume.
Sure.
Right? Like, that's all I knew. And instead it starts with like, right, he meets 3 Nazi war criminals that he has to live with.
It's a movie about
And
the cruelty in the heart of all men.
Dressed
Right,
in
at the
rapier.
start of the movie,
Yes.
they're like moving a speaker into his room, and I'm like, right, he has annoying roommates. And then quickly you're like, oh, these are like irredeemable
Yeah.
monsters.
These are like Columbine killers.
And right. And
Yeah.
then the joke gets escalated so insanely where it's like, not only that, like they dress like Zoolander's friends.
Yes.
Right? Like they're in these insane outfits. And it's
Yeah.
like kind of funny, but the movie's almost too realistic for it to work.
Chandler, you and I were talking last night about The Wedding Singer, which we both love.
Great movie.
Right?
Love it. Love
and
it.
and how good in particular the art direction is in The Wedding Singer.
Obviously, it's a period film and it's
yeah,
taking
shout out
advantage.
to Perry Blake.
The
a
great Perry
genius.
Blake. But that's what we were saying is like at the time when they greenlit it, people were like, is it too soon to make an 80s movie?
Right.
And they were correct in that like it feels like it has just been enough time. And Perry Blake like recreates the 80s in a way that it's just like a little accentuated, but it doesn't feel over the top. And it feels like American Graffiti-esque evocation, whatever. I say to Ben 15 minutes into us watching this doesn't feel like we're watching a movie from the year 2000. It feels like we're watching a film from 2025 set in the year 2000. It feels
Oh,
like such a
yeah.
fake, weird recreation, misremembering of the style of
There's
2000.
moments that
It's
charmed
so
me.
true.
Maybe it's
Right,
just
I was
Alan
not
Cumming.
completely against it.
Right.
But there's something about in this moment where she is capturing that year, something is so over the top. And as you said, like the dorm mates dressing like the Zoolander
Right.
roommates and like the fucking soundtrack and all this stuff feels like this is like forced. And Ben said, well, what it is someone still making movies about teenagers who is increasingly only getting older.
Yeah.
And it's kind of out of touch.
But it's so weird because she's nails Clueless so hard.
Yeah, I mean, Clueless is like every element of Clueless is like pristine and like classic forever. And like
Right.
you watch that movie now and you want all the clothes in
And-
the movie.
right,
and
Clueless
talk
is
about it.
even though
mega
it's so
heightened.
affected.
Yes, but that's the difference is that Clueless, by her own admission, is sort of like, I'm going to make up slang words that are even more insane than what the kids say.
Beyond the
I'm going to
slang,
accentuate the
way they
fashion.
It's the same-
dress,
all of it.
right.
And it's the same costume designer and collaborators on this one, like Mona May
Who's
and
great.
Twin Kaplan, her
Yeah.
producer.
Right.
And
And I do think Ben's right that she has no grasp on actual like youth. At
maybe
that
she
point.
doesn't know men. Like maybe that's part of it because it's the
What?
world of men.
Women can't write men. You know, that's
I know.
that's the lesson I've learned from this. They should be ashamed of themselves for trying to write men. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
also,
maybe
The female gaze in this movie is insane. The way her camera leers over Biggs.
all of his bad toupee.
His fucking
the track marks of his
But
his
I
window
couldn't even
curtains.
get a handle on, and I don't think she ever had a handle on, like, what is he? Like, what kind of bumpkin is he supposed to be?
Especially with a title like Loser, you're like, you're going to present to me a very specifically realized version of
And so
an
she's like,
outcast.
he's from the Midwest. He has a hat. I don't know. He's nice.
I was getting like
Yeah.
Pennsylvania
Right.
yokel.
Because I think she loves. I think Amy Heckerling like really reveres classic Hollywood and kind of grew up
Absolutely.
in that.
Yes.
So I feel like he's like a Frank Capra kind of character, like Mr. Deeds goes to
And, I mean,
Washington. or
he's a
something.
step away from a character I think about too much. Norbit.
we all think about
From the
Norbit.
film Norbit.
Uh-huh.
Who is an insane character in a movie
Yes.
filled with insane characters, who's just like, I'm just a nice guy. Like, it's like Eddie Murphy kind of forgot to do Norbit when he's like, he
Sure.
works on everything else, right? And then he's like, oh, fuck, who's Norbit?
But that movie's also almost about like biblical trials that befall.
Right, exactly. So then
like,
at a certain
man.
point, you're like, can you just do something else? You're stressing me out just kind of being like, all right, guys, like while this is happening to him.
That's what's so weird, though, is as you said, like, having it just be like small town kid moves to the city, right? Scholarship kid.
That's a premise.
All these shitty rich kids, and he's just a little too pure, and they all dislike him for that reason. But this movie's also trying to be like, he's so bizarre and weird that they can't make sense of
this
him.
hat he wears.
Right. Outside of him just sort of being like fresh off the bus.
This reminds me, I need to open the dossier.
Please.
So let me open the dossier.
Okay.
1997, MGM buys a spec script called Molly.
Yep.
Amy Heckerling gets attached to direct and produce.
I clocked this movie recently as her only producing credit on a film she didn't direct. And I was like, what is this? And why'd she end up in this? And then watch this trailer, which is a nightmare.
Sure. It stars Elizabeth Shue. It does eventually get made, not by her, yes. It's a fact-based comedy about a man who has to take care of his sister when she's released from an institution. She's autistic, and medical treatment has cured her and turned her into a genius. This sounds
like
insane.
a Flowers for Algernon from
Right.
hell.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it looks so fucking bad.
But she didn't make that.
She didn't.
In
She made Loser
1998,
instead.
She made Loser. And
she gets attached to, she and Twin Kaplan
Uh-huh.
are attached to produce a feature film adaptation of the Prometheus and Bob shorts.
Now, would it surprise you to hear?
You fucking loved that shit.
And Ben, you got to rise out of Ben, right? You remember that.
Oh, of course.
I also
Ben,
remember
you're about to lose your mind when you hear the other detail of what this movie is
little
supposed to be.
for listeners who may not remember
Kablam,
Kablam.
the
Do you remember
great
Kablam?
Nickelodeon
I don't know.
anthology show. It was broken
Little
up into different
claymation
segments.
cavemen.
What were some of the other recurring shorts?
Well, of course, there was Action League Now.
yeah.
The Flash, Stinky Driver,
Meltman, he has the
Meltman.
power to melt.
Justice,
This is good
the
stuff.
dog.
Thunder Girl, she flies like thunder.
Yes.
I always thought that was such a good show.
It was so good. Henry and June hosted the show. It took place in between the pages of a comic book. I believe Angela Anaconda started on
Oh my
Kablam,
god, I love
Yeah.
it.
which then spun
Which
off
was-
into a very big Canadian
They
show.
also had a
Hell
few
yeah.
things came out of it.
Yes.
But yeah, it was very fun.
But Prometheus and Bob was a series.
Angela Anaconda was so weird.
It was good as hell.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. Do you know that Noah Segan was the voice of Henry on Kablam?
Let's keep going.
Okay. So Prometheus and Bob was a series of claymation short films that were, in theory, the discovered tapes of UFOs' first encounters with human life. And it was like aliens landed on Earth in the prehistoric age, and this alien tries to teach a caveman how to do stuff. And they were really fucking funny.
They were funny.
And-
Molly, her daughter, got her
Yes.
into the shorts. So that was how she got interested.
I loved these. I vividly remember my dad being like, I just read they're making a Prometheus and Bob movie and
And
being
it was
so
supposed
excited.
to star Chris Farley and David Spade.
Oh my
But
god.
Then Chris Farley died, unfortunately.
That would have been incredible.
I know.
Yes.
But the project stayed in development. Now, the creator of Prometheus and
Mhm.
Bob, Coat Zellers,
Mhm.
did say that the first draft of the film, which was not written by him, was, quote, the worst thing he ever read.
Did
So,
they say who wrote the first draft?
No. I don't know.
And then he tried to rewrite it, and he said a lot of those ideas ended up getting repurposed for the Jack Black Gulliver's Travels. I don't know what that means.
That is true. I don't know.
Yeah.
The writers were Nick Stoller and Joe Stillman.
Well, they did Gulliver. Yeah.
Okay. So what does Heckerling actually do rather than these things?
Mm-hmm.
She does, of course, work on the Clueless TV show briefly. The other thing she works on was A Night at the Roxbury, which she develops and produces.
Mhm.
Now, we address this more on the next episode, don't
Yes.
we?
Yes.
I won't speak of it.
Silence.
I mean, it is just a thing, right? The whole accounting of the night the Roxbury thing is very confusing, and there are a lot of like story pieces that don't fit together in all directions.
Who's in that film, says that she made a pass at him, and then Lauren said that he was supposed to have sex with her. You can read all of his...
At one point supposed to direct the movie. She doesn't end up directing the movie, but does end up producing it. But
Yes.
I've also heard that she kind of did take over.
That makes sense.
At some point in production, and Chris Kattan says that he was pressured to have an affair with her by Lauren Michaels in order to help secure her on the movie. But Chris Kattan was sleeping with 3 different women in the movie at the same time.
He was. Amy Heckerling's response, and I believe we also talk about this next week, was, ugh, he's a nut. Essentially, like, I don't want to know what dumb shit he came up with. I have nothing to say about him or his idiot book.
And Molly Israel's talked about
this
it
was
a
all
lot
when
more.
he was selling a memoir.
Baby Don't Hurt Me.
Okay.
But yes, another thing that takes up a year plus of her life and has only led to drama and tragedy. Yeah, certainly bad feelings. Yeah.
Heckerling. So why did she make Loser? JJ couldn't find out. Fired.
Great. I mean, it does feel as simple as her being like, I love the apartment. I want to make something like the apartment.
I don't think that's quite...
You don't think that's it?
Well, here's a quote from her.
What?
It's called Loser, and it stars Jason Biggs, Mina Savari, and Greg Kinnear. Jason plays a guy in college who's hardworking, decent, and has a big heart. So naturally, people think he's a loser. Wackiness ensues. There's a crazy twist ending, and no one's allowed to leave the theater during the last 10 minutes.
What's the crazy twist?
She may kind of be joking. Because there's
possibly,
obviously...
But also, Biggs having the haircut at the end of the movie, I'm like, was the ending a reshoot? The coda certainly feels like a last-minute thing in response to audiences being like, we want to see these assholes get punished.
I want to see Greg Kinnear get fed into a wood chipper.
Right.
And they're just like, he went to prison. And I'm like, not good enough.
There is an American Graffiti style
the Punisher to kill him.
Text what happened to the 4 most evil characters after the movie ending that truly feels like it's only to satisfy that thing of like audiences needing to see blood.
So Heckling is asked, why are you always making films about young people?
Mm-hmm.
She says, I guess I'm always attracted to that age group because everything is so intense and new, and that's dramatic and appealing to me. Yeah.
As is the case with a lot of filmmakers.
Quotes from her where
Sure.
she's really kind of, explaining why she made this
But
movie.
I think also as the case with a lot of filmmakers we talk about, they get so stuck in the thing they've had the most success doing that certainly JJ has dug up the projects she sets up or gets attached to in between each of her films that mostly end up being films about teenagers.
This is something.
Give it to me.
When she made Clueless,
Mm-hmm.
she was forthright that she was basing it on the novel Emma by Jane Austen.
Yep.
But when Variety in 2000 reached out to Heckerling's reps for comment on whether she'd use the apartment while crafting Loser, CAA said she did not base Loser on the apartment. Any similarities are coincidental.
Well, here's what I would say to that.
Interesting.
The novel Emma is public domain.
Yeah, no, I know.
And the motion picture The Apartment is not.
So the studio
Mm-hmm.
wanted Chris Klein to be the star of this movie.
Whoa.
So the studio is basically just like, we need some of these guys.
Pick 2 pilot cast members and you got a green light. Any 2. It could be Reed and Nichols.
That's a very different movie and not... I don't think Chris Klein could play a loser.
Well, no, but yet.
He would be doing the election thing again.
Yeah,
I assume.
exactly.
Playing like lovably stupid.
Which it feels like is what this movie wants this character
but he's
to
smart. He got a scholarship.
That's the problem, though, right? Like their conception of why he's uncool.
I think Chandler's right that it's kind of a Frank Capra thing, and he's just like, oh, I have to live at the vet. Guess I'll be really good at helping animals now too, right? He's just like kind of always good at shit.
But I think that requires him to be a level of rube that goes against how smart this character is, right? Like that's the problem.
It certainly doesn't make
That's why the scholarship, like that's why bribing the professor, blackmailing. That you need to have something. You have to have something on the teacher to make the apartment arrangement.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and it also just feels like they're not leaning into the level of kind of like gee shucks idealism that kind of character needs.
It also needed more New York in it.
Yes.
The Apartment is an incredible New York film.
I think that is very true. And I think it's a failing with the 3 villain boys.
Uh-huh.
None of them are very New York. I mean, they're rich kids, sure.
But this movie is like set on Mars, like in the way where you're like, what are these fashions?
Then they go see Cabaret.
Here's the thing.
Welcome, bienvenue.
Like,
the
movie's called Loser. The big thing it's asking us to buy is like pointing over at Jason Biggs and be like, this guy cannot fit in, right? He obviously does not look cool in this movie, and yet everyone in this movie looks insane. So I'm like, his hair is crazy and his hat's crazy.
But everyone looks crazy.
But I don't get everyone pointing at him and being like, what's up with this guy?
And I get that it's a joke. Like, it's heightened. But you're right. Like, they don't make sense.
Because he doesn't look like any stereotype of nerd I have ever seen. Right?
Like, really? No.
I don't know. That
describe
hat
this guy
that he trades up to is so bad.
Well, when she makes him wear the fedora from the
when he
garbage.
starts dressing like evil Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
This is truly one of those movies very few people have seen, right? But if you were trying to describe it to people and you said Amy Heckerling's Loser, they most likely respond with, oh, the teenage dirtbag movie. And number 2 would be the movie with the hat.
Right.
Because the poster is his face is cut off below the eyeballs. It's eyeballs, L on forehead, hat, loser. As if this movie was like, this summer, get ready to love this hat.
Wait, so do you think
the hat was the hook?
Did Wheatus add the line in the shape? No, wait, sorry, I'm getting confused with Smash Mouth.
Yeah.
The shape of the L on her forehead, Smash Mouth, not Wheatus. But it feels like it could be part of
it. Maybe it was a shot across
Smash
the
Mouth
bow.
should have done a pass on Loser.
They should
on the soundtrack.
on the movie. Oh,
on the movie too. Anyone should have done a pass on the movie.
Yeah.
Anyway,
this movie starts
Heckerling
out.
resists Klein. She wants Biggs. When she meets Biggs, she clicks
sense.
with him.
She's like, of all the American Pie cast members,
Biggs loves Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He says it's his favorite teen movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's very excited to be the lead of a movie too, rather than American Pie.
He's
which is more of an ensemble.
Shooting Boys and Girls Warning Sex Ruins Everything concurrent with this movie.
Never
He's
seen
flying
that
back
one.
and forth.
Yes, well, that is insane.
That's a terrible movie.
and
with
he
Freddie
has his
Prinze
own
Jr.
hair in that movie, so he had to
Yes.
wear the wig for
Right.
Loser.
Every time Biggs left Loser to go film Boys and Girls, he had to have his hair extensions burned off.
Oh
This
my
is insane.
God.
It's insane. Why
Wait, so it's not even a full wig, it's hair extensions?
wouldn't they just
don't
give him a
know.
fucking
They
wig?
make a wig.
Or let him have his normal hair. I say this out of complete respect, right? Jason Biggs shows up with his real hair. No one's going, God, that guy looks too cool to buy as a loser. Right? Like, this is Jason Biggs. That's his stock in trade.
I mean, it just looks like he has Chris Klein hair.
He's got goofball face.
Do you know
Let
what I
him just
mean,
have
though?
his own
That
hair.
middle
Yes,
part, it's
yes.
like the exact haircut.
He's got the curtains.
So, we'll talk about the rest of the plot of Loser in a second, but just to
Did
wrap
you have
on
that haircut? Did anyone have a middle part here in this
No,
room?
I have an insane cowlick side part.
Oh,
I
yeah.
cannot middle part my hair at all.
Yeah.
I have crazy hair.
And I wanted cool guy Lars Ulrich, Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible 2 sweatback hair. And I didn't realize that my hair was curly and thought that at some point it would just start looking
Smash
that way.
Mouth should have maybe done a pass on your hair too.
Yeah. Also on my
Process and
brain.
tips. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So Heckerling and her agent Ken Stovitz claimed
Uh-huh.
the movie was ruined in post. It was really, according to Ken Stovitz, the movie was really good
Okay.
until
Yeah.
the studio said, no, you have to make it PG-13 and it ruined the movie. Of course, now only R-rated comedy. The irony being, but R-rated comedies became king shit. And it's like, well, they already had.
That's my
I
fucking...
want to know what the R-rated things were because
so
there's the
here's one thing.
roofies. There's a pretty blue language in Loser
the movie's
already.
really dark. And I
Yeah.
can't imagine like there
Like, is
being...
there more nudity or something?
Right, like cum
or-
drinking, like
Well,
fucking
I'm
set
about to tell you
pieces.
something completely bananas that certainly doesn't make Loser sound like it was really good
Okay.
in the R-rated
Okay,
version.
share it with me.
In the version in theaters, Biggs' three obnoxious college roommates tricks Mina Savari's character into drinking. They roofie her.
Yes.
What audiences won't see is a subsequent shot of Dora awaking on an operating table as the three men use veterinary equipment to remove her clothing.
Ugh.
God, if only that scene had been in the movie.
Biggs. The comedy comes from the perspective of the three guys who think slipping a roofie into a young girl's drink is humorous, but then you have me and Mina counteracting that by taking it all very seriously. I don't think we approach it in a light manner at all.
Ben said...
It's just one of these things where I'm like, okay, well, I don't think that made or ruined the movie.
This is why I want more context about Loser, because what female director wants to do that scene?
Here's what's odd about it.
Amy says, I didn't want to deal with it in a preachy way. Look, I'm the mom of a teenage girl. The fact is, this is something that's going on, and I wanted to make these characters as vile as possible so you know they're disgusting guys. By the time they're roofing her, you already hate the three guys.
Yeah.
The roofie scene is just insane because the movie kind of skates by it.
Yeah.
Not for any other reason.
Right.
It happening, you're like, whoa, what the fuck? But then also, they're just kind of like,
it's a plot function for him to have to take care of her for 4 days.
Well, and he swaps out their the pills.
Yeah.
David,
another like save the cat kind of moment.
Right.
I mean, this guy literally saves so many cats in a way where I'm like, I fucking get it.
Yeah, like when the grandpa gives him the money and then he like puts it back in his pants.
David, grant me this. Just a quick reprieve. And spoiler alert. But in the apartment, in the fallout of being devastated by the boss not wanting to have a serious relationship with her and leave his wife, she attempts suicide. And you have this same thing of the last act of the movie, Lemon kind of nursing her back to health and this sort of vulnerability and whatever. And it's so weird that this is the choice she makes of how to put the Savari character in the same position, sleeping on his couch, basically. She is drugged and like assaulted.
So just to pull
and
back.
Yet she wakes up and is like, oh, how long did I sleep in? 2 days?
And it's also,
okay, cool.
Is unrelated from the fucking Kinnear thing. Like the Kinnear factor is just like a whole other part of the movie.
This is not a part of the movie. It just happens and then is basically not addressed, and then we just sort of move on.
And there's so many like bad teen sex comedies where there are like boys will be boys behavior that you now look at and you're like, fuck, this is revolting, right? This movie knows that these guys are evil, and yet, as Ben said while watching it, they are so horrible, I cannot laugh.
Well, I just want to say, like, I think it's weird because it doesn't feel like this is necessarily like a feminist movie when I'm watching it.
No.
It's not like it's like a commentary on these guys and there's some like Clueless is so smart.
Yes.
And it like understands like the scene where, Cher, like when Elton is trying to basically assault Cher. Like that's a very interesting, fascinating scene.
It is because that actually feels real.
Yeah.
Where it's like he's being aggressive, he's an asshole. It's not comical, and it's like she handles it, and it's not great. But it's also not like kind of this pure evil shit either, right?
And like, I mean, obviously the ceiling shot in Fast Times at Ridgemont High is like one of the greatest, like most interesting interpretations of like what it's like to have sex and lose your virginity. Like she's like a very incredible like feminist filmmaker when it comes to sexuality, especially. And then in this movie, it's just like this horrible like cartoon. They're not really redeemed except like these actions, they don't really face any consequences except in the Chiron.
Except in the post-credits, right. Like,
and like, I just don't understand she's so much smarter and more clever and more interesting as a director and a writer than this movie is. So is that a result of like kind of getting boxed out after Clueless? Like,
I don't fucking know.
She should have some leeway. She made Clueless. It was a big hit. She wrote and directed this film. She based it on a famous movie. Oh, wait, I'm saying your CIA says that didn't happen. But
she has movie stars.
She has, stars. She has actors. She doesn't have a lot of places to hide on this one.
No, I was going to say, I think it is why the failure of this movie stuck to her so hard for a movie that was not incredibly expensive and is largely forgotten, but it does feel like Hollywood went like, thanks, you're done. Right? Like after this, and a lot of it is that I think they were like, we let you do what you wanted, and this is what you fucking made.
But I don't know if it doesn't seem like the product of someone who got to do what they wanted either.
It doesn't.
Because why do you have to film in Toronto for like 20 of your 25-day shoot?
And
why did it have to be, why did they change the rating thing on you in post or whatever?
If you make Clueless, God, that's like one of the greatest films of all time. And it made so much money.
And culturally seismic.
Yeah,
again,
like, why do you have to make Loser if you make Clueless?
Right.
I'm mad.
If someone says to her, hey, no, this can't be R-rated, she can't be like, the American Pie guys are in it.
You told me
that movie was R-rated.
I have to hire 2 American Pie people, basically.
Like, what are you talking about?
And just like point back there. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
She should have been making Winner.
Okay, Ben, go on.
All right, okay. And would that be
Outline
about
this for me.
the popular bakery in Park Slope that has multiple, there's a place called Winner.
Ben,
Like winner, chicken dinner.
This is why
good.
he's not setting up studio pictures. Give me your pitch on Winner.
Okay, my pitch is
Who in American Pie is in it?
Yeah, you got to pick two
God. Stifler's mom.
Coolidge.
we're in trouble
She's hot.
here.
No, she's hot right now. She's hot right now. She's got the juice.
Right, Emmy winner.
And she goes back to school, and everyone loves her.
So far, this is just Rodney Dangerfield back to school with Jennifer
but
Coolidge.
it's kind of
which
a
sounds
new
pretty good.
take. It's a new
I'm
perspective.
in. I'm in.
Melissa McCarthy's Life of the Party, but with Jennifer Coolidge.
Which is a better film
Then which?
than Life of the Party. Like,
Better than Life of the Party,
sure.
probably worse than Back to
Yes,
School.
yes.
And then her roommates are also awful, but
Uh-huh.
they eventually get their comeuppance.
She has them sent to Guantanamo.
Exactly. Yes, and they're waterboarded, and you see it, and it's an extended.
It's
scene.
like 28
This
minutes.
is like the ultimate example of a movie that needs to end with these three guys being hit by a truck, right? In order for audiences to walk out not feeling
They need some Final
like they need a
Destination
chemical
logs.
bath.
It
Yeah.
just makes
sweep
me
across the screen.
it makes me so sad to think of Amy Heckerling in her like Upper West Side apartment, like
Right.
writing dialogue for these guys at like 4 a.m, like handwriting it. Like, why would she even spend her time doing
Well,
this?
the two films she makes after Loser, I Could Never Be Your Woman and Vamps,
Mhm.
are both very messy. They're better than this film, in my opinion. I think we would agree.
You put this dead last?
No, I put this above two other movies that she made.
I put this above I Could Never Be Your Woman.
Really, I find I Could Never Be Your Woman more interesting,
Hmm.
and it has Saoirse Ronan in it.
It does.
Mhm.
And Paul Rudd and
It's got
Michelle
people.
Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
This movie has Mina Suvari and Greg Kinnear.
Uh-huh.
Sorry to
Look,
that
I'll
man.
say this. Like, my three favorite actors in the movie are probably the three demons. Like, Zach Orth,
Yeah,
Sadowski,
right.
and Jimmy Simpson, I always love, and they actually do what they're asked to do in this very well.
No,
Yes.
I
What they're
liked-
asked to do is just sort of like following Hitler's orders.
I liked Colleen Camp as the hobo who answers the phone.
Ben does turn to me and go, why was that the best performance I've seen in the first 20 minutes of this movie?
like the only thing that's popped so far.
Right.
Funny.
And
Stephen Wright asking for pantyhose, that worked for me.
Yeah, he's
Taylor Negron,
Spade.
there he is, Spade.
Yeah.
Brian Backer's back again.
Backer's back again. Yeah.
As the
Andrea
doctor.
Martin having like one line of dialogue.
That kind of felt rude to Andrea Martin. The others, I was sort of like, this is part of her ensemble. I'm like, Andrea Martin's busy.
Yeah.
Can her show up for this?
I Could Never Be Your Woman has this energy we will talk about next week, but there are elements of that movie which is so clearly autobiographical in so many ways. There are elements of the movie that feel so axe grindy
Yes.
of specific grudges that she has that it feels uncomfortable to watch and also isn't funny.
Mm.
And I have the same question of like, why design this movie to put like elements that are this fucking unpleasant in it
yeah.
in a way that is like not just a scene that's rough to like balance out the comedy with some heaviness or whatever, but like a consistent streak of like moral morass
Hmm.
in this film where the only logic I can apply to it is her being like, you know, there are a lot of teen sex comedies where like boys do horrible things and it's treated as a joke. Do I want to try to show these people for what they really are? But then that also feels like a spiteful way to make a movie. Do you know what I'm saying? And like to your point, I'm like, why invest this much energy doing it? I'm not saying you can't put bad people in a movie, but you cannot overstate how much like 40% of the runtime of this movie is these guys fucking with people in a way that actually feels like satanic.
Yeah, and for someone who just proved that, you know, like young female characters can make like a shitload of money at the box office.
Yeah.
And that like people are willing to like all kinds of people are willing to like show up and you know, like Cher Horowitz became a cultural icon.
She also talks about
True.
this, like there's this battle.
You don't think
throughout
the loser became a cultural?
Hey,
Mr. Loser.
the forehead. We all see
What's
the
his
hat.
name? What's his name?
Paul something.
Fuck.
I don't even know.
I'm
I-
amazed you got Paul.
The only reason
know
I
you
remember,
just watched
A, I
it,
finished it an hour
right?
ago.
Yes.
B, I remember that there's a part because Kinnear's character's named Peter, and they go Peter, Paul, and I'm like, that's weird of her
No,
to.
his name's Edward, so I don't know.
Really?
It
Oh,
kind
then I think the joke is that he can't remember what his name is.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that's the only reason I remember.
Great joke from
kind of
Kinnear.
reminds me of like that You Must Remember This series on Polly Platt
Oh yeah,
and how like in some ways, Heckerling's story is like very sad. And the more I hear about it from this podcast, the more I'm like, she had a secret baby with Harold Ramis?
No, it's true.
She had to make Loser?
Karina, honestly, dig in. Because I feel like Amy will talk, right? She's in a sort of retrospective phase of her career anyway.
But it's like
Hillary
in
Weston,
so many ways, I feel like female filmmakers, like they're always kind of set up to fail.
Yes.
And even when you have a huge success like Clueless, it almost, you get double penalized or something. Like you're a victim of your own success.
Absolutely.
You, even when you build a franchise, like Look Who's Talking, you know, that just makes it so that the cards are stacked more for the next thing you do to be kind of more invalidated.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like Hillary Weston Criterion did a great interview with Heckerling. There's the Ringer interview we referenced recently. There was a New York Times profile in 2019. Like, she's done a couple of these sit downs, and it's not like she like minces words. And yet, I'm like, in all the very good research that JJ's done, he does keep admitting to us, like, it's hard to pull out stuff on a lot of these.
Because nobody cares about this movie. So it's like no one's ever really done the, like, okay, can you explain to me what went on with Loser, please? Apart from, like, her agent being like, hey, they fucked us.
I don't know how much of it is, like,
the vet scene.
Self-protection, right?
Sure.
And, like, survival, and how much of it is shit like the weird lawsuits around Look Who's Talking and things you can't talk about. But it does feel like, even with us, like, spending months, like, you know, studying her in this way, it's like there are just kind of like narrative jumps that are inexplicable to me, of just like, how does she lose the heat that severely, where like the Look Who's Talking movies were so fucking big, right? The first one is ginormous, and yet it was like such an uphill battle for her to get Clueless made. And off of Clueless, it should have been like, you know what? Who are we to fucking question this woman, right?
Yeah, it's the literal concept of your podcast.
Right.
Like, open up your piggy banks.
This should be the blank check, and she got $20 whole million to make it, which is not nothing.
But
she didn't even get to make it in the city that it's set in.
And the failure of this movie hit her as if it was Town and Country.
Yeah.
As if she had lost $100 million.
But at the same time,
the movies are kind of repellent.
This movie's not very good, and it's her movie.
Yeah.
Like, she wrote and directed it. Like, I mean, there's only, like I said, there's just not a lot of places for her to hide. And with I Could Never Be Your Woman, which is the next movie, like you say,
yes,
it is kind of weird and personal and axe grindy in an indie movie way. It's not a commercial film.
I get it.
And like, it has movie stars in it,
yes.
so it, you know, people were fooled. We'll talk about the production of that film into putting up money for a movie they thought could be releasable, but it turned out it wasn't.
Feels like one strike that was processed by the industry as 3 strikes.
I guess,
right?
So.
Where they were like, well, you're on a cold streak. And it was like, you made one bad movie.
She should have made more movies. I think the other thing with Heckerling is she is more an auteur. So like there's probably like boring projects she could have done that she didn't want to do.
She talks about that.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I think a lot of the things she really wanted to do, they wouldn't greenlight because they'd say that doesn't sound like an Amy Heckerling movie.
Yes, and right. She was always a little boxed in.
She kind of reminds me of Amy Sherman Palladino.
Interesting.
Amy
like,
Sherman
they're both
Palladino,
kind of like brassy New Yorkers that are in love with like old timey Hollywood things, and they've like managed to funnel that into kind of like personal art that's a little bit off center, but like beautiful and. Disney
I am someone
flavors.
who is obsessed with Amy Sherman Palladino.
Okay.
I cannot deny.
Go on.
Gilmore Girls is obviously the most important TV show of my life, or whatever.
And are you sashaying? What's that show called?
Étoile.
Étoile?
Étoile.
Étoile?
The whole thing that's so weird about her is she worked on Roseanne, which makes total sense. That like she like vibed on Roseanne, right? That's where she meets Daniel Palladino. I'm sorry to do an Amy Sherman Palladino. I have to do it.
Yeah.
And then she works on other sitcoms, and she gets Gilmore Girls. It's a WB show, but obviously she's like an insane auteur. And you can tell from any interview and every commentary she's ever done. You listen to those commentaries. There's not very many. She's a tough customer.
Sure.
She is intense, and like she must have been. You know, you always hear stories about just how intense she was. And she's writing these like 120-page scripts, Gilmore Girls, with all the dialogue, right?
Yeah.
And the studios are like, this show is so insane to make, considering that it's a small town comedy. Like, what the fuck? You know, and they fire her off her own show. And the 7th season of Gilmore Girls is insane because she's not writing it. And it's one of the most, it's like Dan Harmon
I was
going to
say, it's the exact same thing.
Wow,
of like,
everything is
we
off.
have to fire her because the show can't run with her, and then they kick her off, and then it's like, it runs even less now. It doesn't work without the crazy person at the center.
But then what's so weird about her is like, so her whole career, she's kind of, churning to stay afloat. And then she makes a fucking show about like a Jewish housewife becoming a comedian in the 60s, wins Emmys, and Amazon's like, whatever you want to do for life. I don't care how niche it is.
Yeah.
The budget is yours.
You and your
Go
top hat have a blank check forever.
Exactly. Like now she's living in luxury.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's what Amy Heckerling should have had. Like,
Amy Heckerling should have. Maybe she's just a little young for prestige TV. Like maybe she should have gotten that.
She's obviously she's done a lot of TV directing in the time, but post Loser, right?
And she's done some, like she worked on Red Oaks.
She directed a lot of Red Oaks.
Like she's done like genuine prestige TV stuff.
I remember when I was working on The Tick, and I would talk to the Amazon people about the shows they were working on, and they were like, in Red Oaks, we're going to our 4th season, 3rd season, whatever the fuck it was, right?
Sure.
And someone said to me, like, people don't know this, but like Amy Heckerling, they were like, Amy Heckerling, like quietly has been directing most of Red Oak. She's like kind of taken over it. It kind of rules. And I'm just like, you guys know this is cool. Why are you not then saying, hey, Amy, do you have a show you want to pitch us?
Yeah.
Like maybe they did, but I'm like, shouldn't that have led to being like.
Did you ever watch Red Oaks?
No.
I never watched Red Oaks. It's like, it's Heckerling, Hal Hartley.
Yeah.
And
it was created by Greg Jacobs.
David Gordon Green.
Oh, yeah.
And Soderbergh, I think, also
and
maybe had a
Soderbergh produced it. Yeah. It's like 3 kind of unbelievable directors, 2 of whom, like Hal Hartley and Heckerling, are like these like comedy auteurs.
And the dude from Submarine, who's now become a director in his own right, who did the fucking Phantom of the Open or whatever it's called. Do you know that the kid from Submarine directed the fucking... David, don't give me that look.
Yeah, I do know that.
You do know that. You know that. You know that. Deep in your heart, you know that.
His name is Craig Roberts.
And he directed Phantom of the Open with Mark Rylance, which won your Putters and Warmers Award. And you know that, and you can't deny that.
Did it? I haven't seen that movie.
Really?
I probably just shouted it out as like a movie Mark Rylance was in.
You gave Putters and Murmurs to Rylance and something.
He probably putts in that
definitely
movie,
putts.
right?
Was it like Bones and All? Something.
Well, I gave it for Bones and All.
He's definitely puttering.
And you were against that performance, so you picked a different Rylance from that same year. But what would it have been?
I don't know. It's late.
Oh,
Look, we have to talk about Loser.
It was probably the that horrible movie about the disaster that the guy who made Anchorman did.
It wasn't that one, but he does Putter and Murmur in that, where he plays like
Don't Look Up.
Weird Bezos. Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of funny in Don't Look Up, I guess.
Here's some Heckerling, like some larger thoughts I've been having, trying to get my head around her career, right? One is the miracle of Look Who's Talking for me is that she figured out such a commercial hook to be able to basically smuggle a personal story into,
Yes,
right?
We talked about that extensively.
Right. And like that was a thing she kind of didn't figure out how to do again.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ben is right. I think this is Occam's razor. She's getting too old for this shit. And then she does it. She does a personal story with I Could Never Be Your Woman, but it's harder to relate to the plight of a TV showrunner.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, no, but this is
also I think people didn't studios tell her that Michelle Pfeiffer was too old to be interesting as a viable character.
The film was not released, which was an issue.
Right, but
that really hampered
the
that
film
movie's
couldn't get made.
Commercial prospects.
No one wants to make a movie about
or put it
a
out.
woman.
Right.
Yes. No, my point here is, right?
What is it?
That Look Who's Talking was her not making a movie about a teenager, was her making a movie about a woman ostensibly the same age as her.
Sure.
And being able to chart what's going on in her life at her moment, but couple it with this fucking high concept hook. Yes. I Could Never Be Your Woman. The hook is, here's how I felt making the TV show of Clueless. And studios were like, why would audiences want to go see this?
Well, studios are also like,
where's
it's
the talking
2007.
Baby? Right.
But anyway.
But there's no thing she figured out how to package the story within that made it more palatable to people.
But I guess Loser is her trying to do that, right?
I guess.
Jason Biggs is her Trojan horse. He's a likable white male that has no flaws.
And he's a new star, much like Alicia Silverstone was.
But also based on what we've read about her experience at NYU and AFI and her coming up with Stuart Blumberg. And
I don't think this is based on her life in any way.
I don't think it's based on her life in Incidental. I think it's based on The Apartment. But I do feel like the Mina Savari character is kind of based on her.
Yeah, that's a good point.
As a personality.
Maybe. What? Really? As a personality? Mina Safari doesn't really have a personality in this movie.
I think Mina Savari's character at least has more detail than the Biggs character does, which is such a blank slate nice guy.
Mina Savari's character, we haven't talked about this, right? She's like a cocktail waitress, bottle service waitress at like a strip joint,
it's
or
a strip
like
joint where no one takes their clothes off.
Yeah, it's like a fancy,
PG-13
trashy club
run by Bobby Slayton,
with Twink Kaplan as her mentor.
Yes,
who is kind of serving.
Also,
Twink hot.
She's hot.
Realize at some point.
I mean,
in this
it's
movie,
not news to me that Twink Kaplan's hot, but like she's banging in this movie.
I
Miss
guess.
Geist no more.
Exactly.
But I also put together like Twink and Mina Savari kind of look similar.
Twink Kaplan, Mina Savari's mom.
They got a similar vibe, right?
You're right.
Sure. But the hook of the character, although things are sort of missing or context is missing.
The two main characters of the film are both struggling to survive at a very expensive university surrounded by privileged kids.
So she's trying to pay her bills. She's commuting home because her mom doesn't approve of her living in sin, essentially, right? It's not, her mom certainly doesn't know that she's a cocktail waitress. But the implication is her mom doesn't even know that like she would like be partying, right? Because that's what the scene with the hobo is.
But I think money is also part of the equation.
But the mom calls being like, would any men come into this women's boarding house? Like, it's like the mom is acting like it's 1963.
Yes.
Okay, right? So she's commuting home. So she's lying about that. So then she decides to get emancipated, which makes no sense because she is an adult.
Oh,
so
yeah, I
how
forgot
could she
about
get
that.
emancipated from her parents? She's over 18 years old.
That's what confused me, is I was like, is this character supposed to be like a 15-year-old who went to college early?
No.
In which case, Kinnear's criminality has gone through the roof?
I think it's trying to sort of say like she wants to be like financially emancipated from her parents so that she can be like legally poor and then get financial aid, I guess.
And Andy Dick is
Andy Dick shows up for a scene where he's kind of doing Jamie Lee Curtis and Everything Everywhere All at Once.
And he also won an Oscar for this.
You're gonna need some forms, you know.
He like spits on her or some shit.
He spits a prune on her. He spits a prune.
It's one of those things where I'm like, this is too complicated. I don't know what this is.
Right.
And she's got to quit the waitress job. So like all of those things are sort of interesting. At the same time, she's trying to shack up with Greg Kinnear because she's like, I need somewhere to sleep.
Right. They have been in a relationship for a while that he refuses to put labels on.
I'm a fucking weird little creep, you know.
Right. I don't want to get comfortable. Right. I don't want to get domestic.
All of these are concepts of a character.
Yes.
These are things that would motivate a character.
Yeah.
I don't see it motivating the actual character on screen much. Who's basically just kind of like a nice person who's like, I don't know.
She just has eyes and fishnets.
She's got big eyes.
She's got big ass eyes.
She does have fishnets.
She's got fun teeth.
Kinnear she can't breathe without Kinnear being like, and by the way, you're dressed like a crazy goth.
Yeah, everything she
like
says,
eyeshadow.
He's like, and you're stupid, and I'd never want to be with you seriously.
He's so horrible.
And she says something to the effect of, I know that's what he says, but you know guys don't know what's best for them. And Biggs has the line where he's like, sometimes when people are trying to tell you, or sometimes when people tell you something, they're actually trying to tell you something.
Yeah,
like sort of being
which is sort of a good.
This guy's not even
line.
hiding that he doesn't have respect for you. And she's just like, I'm going to break him down eventually.
That was actually a good scene.
That scene's okay. Because he's kind of, okay, so this is the big question I have to throw to you guys.
Please.
Is Jason Biggs any good in this movie and in general?
I think.
Great question.
I do like him.
Is American Pie his best part?
It has to.
I'd love that question out too.
It like has to.
I think that's his best performance.
Well, it's sort of like where do you fall on anything else, right? Which is such a weird movie.
Sure.
I mean, I feel like Ricci is sort of like the big part in that movie, right? He's just kind of being
he was
Woody
another
Allen.
in that run of just like, this guy seems like an obvious Woody Allen analog, and you're like, getting that assignment is almost always it's like a death note.
For a while, he had kind of like a zany sidekick run, like in like Saving Silverman and Boys and Girls.
But those are bad movies.
They're really bad.
Saving Silverman is good.
Saving Silverman is good?
Saving Silverman is good.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I remember it being pretty bad.
Did you get roofied?
I have not seen it since 2001.
I may need to rewatch it to see if I can back up this statement, but I think it is good. It is Dennis Dugan.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is sort of his blank check for making so many successful Sandler movies.
Tough when your blank check is Saving Silverman.
Yeah. But it is kind of a movie that is just like unbridled chaos.
Right. It's kind of crazy. I remember Amanda Peet
Jenna
is really insane in it.
Yes.
Is what?
Is Jenna Elfman in that movie?
It's Amanda Peet is in the
No.
role that you probably imagine Jenna Elfman playing.
Elfman was circled.
Yes. But Zahn and Black are really good in it. Arlie Ermy, I believe, shits in a mailbox maybe, or he shits on a lawn.
He's in it.
Neil Diamond's in it.
He's listed.
I think you're right. I think Biggs had like two modes. He could either be like zany sidekick or like Woody Allen surrogate.
Well, Saving Silverman's...
And he didn't really fit in either of those.
See, Saving Silverman's a weird one because he is ostensibly the lead and is the romantic lead of that movie, but that is a movie that basically is like, and we don't care about this guy, it's really about the zany sidekicks. So Zahn and Black, who are the zany sidekicks, kind of just run the movie.
Do you think that Jason Biggs can carry a movie?
I watched all 4 American movies at some point in lockdown.
You were doing great.
I was doing horrible. I couldn't have been doing worse. And I do think he's got a pretty steady hand on those things. I think the sequels do not work. And I think like the only thing that kind of works is that he is kind of fairly sensitively showing the stages of this guy's life as a real person. Like he's trying so hard to keep it grounded in some level of like relatable human behavior as like the set pieces of those movies become so convoluted.
The first
and
one
sweaty.
he fucks a pie. Second one he gets hand stuck to dick with glue.
That's one of the things.
Oh, does do other things happen? I don't remember.
Yeah, but that's the big one.
That's the big one that happens to
He
him.
jerks off with crazy glue.
I remember that.
Right. In the third one, he
does the craziest thing of all. He gets married.
Whoa.
The ultimate gross out gag.
I think I've seen
He
that
shaves his pubes and he throws the pube shavings out the window and they land on the wedding cake.
Oh, yes,
That
I have
rings
seen
a
that.
bell.
That
really seems like they don't have anything.
Oh, correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, what haven't we done?
Because Stifler drinks the cum beer in the first one.
Of course.
Stifler also fucks Jim's grandma in the third one.
Oh, my God.
They start to become like saw traps. Where they're just what is the weirdest way that a thing could end up in a place it shouldn't be?
Yeah.
Right.
What happens in American Reunion?
American Reunion is trying to
It's just kind of like the big chill. They're all just sitting around.
That's the weird thing. American Reunion is trying to be like, we're trying to get back to the original movie, which was a lot like smaller and more like sensitively drawn than people remember.
Sure.
But it doesn't quite get there. There's a whole thing with a young babysitter where he keeps looking like he's taking advantage of her, but he's not. That's kind of the runner in that movie, which is not super fun. He keeps getting caught in compromising situations that are actually a perception issue. I already barely remember this movie I watched in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I do think we've decided that I guess American Pie has to be his best performance. Yeah. Or is it Loser?
Or is it Saving Silverman? No, I think he is miscast in this. I think he's trying his hardest. I don't think he's bad. I think he's miscast, and I think the character is just like not drawn.
The person you cast. I don't think it's Chris Klein.
And
it doesn't have to be someone in American Pie.
But I will say this. I think Eddie K. Thomas would have done this better than Jason Biggs would have.
Rookie of the Year
that's
himself.
a good idea.
No, you're thinking of Thomas Ian Nichols. Eddie K. Thomas is Finch, who I always thought was the secret MVP of the franchise.
He's very funny in American Pie.
I think he would
I don't remember him in the other ones.
Work.
I remember the first one.
Who are you going to say, Chandler?
Well, okay. Does it have to be someone from
and I do
then?
always confuse those.
Or can it be like
No, it can be anybody. Anybody.
Because my initial thought was Jason Schwartzman.
So Rushmore's just 2 years earlier. So Jason Schwartzman is basically like a $1,000 Jason Biggs, right?
But
like it's like similar vibe, but
here's a
way
sliding
better.
Or
door
do you want like a
situation.
Jesse Eisenberg? Like, is it someone who needs to be more
So
like
Roger Dodger is 2 years later. It's maybe a little early for Eisenberg.
But Schwartzman's interesting to me because I'm like, sliding door. What if Schwartzman is in Loser rather than Slackers?
Sure, that's it. And Slackers is tough.
And Slackers is similarly like being like, we're ready to feed this guy into the studio comedy system.
or Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That would have been good.
Levitt wouldn't
He
have been
could have done
bad.
it. He was kind of doing that thing.
Levitt
like,
wouldn't
playing
have been
nerd.
Schwartzman does feel like the best
Schwartzman's
option.
interesting.
The question is, would they have greenlit it with him?
No.
I'm trying to think like who's like a TV star, like a Topher Grace, but not Topher Grace.
Yeah.
You know what I
Levitt's
mean?
good
like
because you got the Third Rock from the Sun, and you got the
Yeah.
heat
That's
off
true.
10 Things I Hate About You.
that
Yeah.
10 Things Heat.
But Topher would have been better than Biggs too.
Topher would have been better.
Topher hadn't made the jump to
Topher a
movies.
loser, though?
Biggs, unfortunately, is taking a beating here because I think pretty much anyone is maybe better than Biggs. But he's not like horrible.
No,
He's better than Chris Clyde, though.
He's better
is.
than Chris Klein.
Of the American Pie people, he's probably
I'm
best?
gonna put forward Eddie K. Thomas.
What did Eddie K. Thomas end up doing?
This
with
is what we were
himself?
talking about last night.
we don't know.
Is that Thomas Ian Nichols had a bigger child career before
was the
American
Rookie of the
Pie.
Year.
Right. He was probably the most established going into that movie. And he talks about how that movie was designed to be him as the lead. And everyone else started popping that in the edit.
Right.
It got miscalibrated, which is why those characters are boring because they're meant to just be like the center characters
yeah.
who don't really have that much conflict.
He does get to get that book out of the library that teaches him
does.
how to have
He
oral
gets the-
sex.
That's the whole point, though. It's like he gets the book because he's supposed to be the guy.
Yeah.
He gets the book of love. Eddie K. Thomas did a TV show.
He's doing a lot of stuff. I mean, he was on Scorpion. Remember Scorpion?
Of course, we all remember Scorpion.
He was the third lead.
Don't get stung.
Oh,
That's something you said?
what about
No.
Ethan Embry?
Embry?
I
love
love
Ethan
Ethan Embry. Yeah,
Too
maybe.
hunky? Too hunky.
No, I don't
No,
think.
he's kind of dorky.
But I think any of these also require her taking another pass at the script. Like casting the right
Yeah.
person and then tailoring the part a little more to that guy. I also think, here's my bigger question. Why is this movie not basically told from her perspective? Why is he
She's
the
certainly a
entry
more dynamic
point
character.
in this character, period? And if you're going
Yeah.
to retell The Apartment, many would argue a perfect movie, right? Isn't like part of the reason to try to do a riff on
Do
it
a gender
to
flip
flip
or
it,
something.
to flip
That's
the
really
focus?
interesting. Because
Right?
that's a much more interesting movie. Like a girl
Totally.
that like has to commute, can't afford to be at school,
Yeah.
is like sleeping with the guy so she doesn't have to like sleep at the train station, basically. He's horrible.
This big
All
character.
of this feels more like an indie movie, though.
Give a
It
nice
does,
guy
yes.
a chance for once.
Yeah.
Right, give the nice guy a chance. He's got the hat.
Yeah.
You'll
He's
fix
got
it with
these
a
mean
different
roommate.
hat soon enough.
But we said this, that the next two movies she makes are indie movies, and they
Yes.
both clearly have the problem of her only knowing how to make things in a studio mode.
They don't
where they
like,
are
you
bad
feel like she didn't have enough time.
approximations of
Yeah.
a studio movie. Like she didn't know how to throttle into a different kind of.
I think she's like, because
Because
she's sort of caught between two places. Like,
Mhm.
she, she sort of is on the mode to becoming like, she kind of could have the career of Penny Marshall,
Sure.
but she has the sensibility of like Elaine May.
Yes.
So she like doesn't fit in
She's
the
too
studio
salty.
filmmaker box because she's gonna like fight and make her own choices that
That's a
are
great point.
weird.
And Elaine May was so antagonistic towards the studio and was like, fuck them, I don't care. Right?
Right.
If they don't want me making things my way, then I won't make movies.
but
Whereas
she could
Heckerling,
also get, Warren Beatty.
the biggest stars in
Right,
Hollywood.
Right.
Heckerling wanted to play ball more. I think Heckerling liked trying to figure out how do I concede just enough. For example, perhaps I never shoot in the city where my movie is set. Almost every film I've made is shot in a fake place outside of her two California high school movies.
And European Vacation,
Oh, you're right.
shot in Europe.
Sure. But like, what's the balance, right? I want to try to get these things made at these big companies.
Yeah, and make something commercial that people
right.
watch.
I also think there is this thing, and all these like quotes we read of her talking about her like innate status as a pessimist
Mhm.
and someone who has this very cynical outlook on the world, and that she likes when she gets to make movies about positive characters, and she feels like she can find this kind of balance in a Spicoli or a Cher Horowitz or whatever it is. And probably her creating those characters coming from a cynical person helps prevent them from feeling too silly. She finds some grounding for them. But I feel like this, I Could Never Be Your Woman, and European Vacation all have the same thing where it's like, it feels like the darkness took over. And they are movies that are all just sort of like, I hate everybody. I think everyone is stupid and insincere and a piece of shit, right?
Well-
like these movies all have this very like defensive worldview.
And then when you hear things like we took out this like further degradation scene.
Right.
You're like, we already got that the characters are bad, but
Right.
that she's like, I want to hammer that home doesn't suggest to me a nuanced outlook.
No, but it's
on
odd.
life.
She like needs to find that tension in her subject.
He's too nice. He's got to do one mean thing.
The loser?
Biggs. Yeah.
Yeah.
He changes their medication for ginkgo pills.
But that's like incredibly nice.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
He forges a note from Kinnear's character.
Right. He like does Kinnear's character favors.
Right.
Basically. I know he's doing it to make her feel better.
He likes the girl.
But he's also helping this guy.
And then when Kinnear's like, I'll give you an A on the paper, he won't take the A, which is in character for him. He wouldn't want to.
Sure.
But even then, you're just like, Jesus, this guy is so fucking holy.
Can we say that Aykroyd, I do think, is very good in this movie?
I said
Only
that.
has
Brings
2
the heat.
scenes. He's in the very beginning, and I was like, I'm so excited for this movie to check in with Aykroyd every 20 minutes.
I checked some of them once.
A phone call at the end
Yeah.
that she overhears.
Yeah.
But it
Oh,
just
yeah.
made,
Kind of a crucial moment, for I guess, for
Yep.
her realizing Biggs ain't so bad.
it just made me remember how much I always kind of love character actor Aykroyd.
Yeah. No, this was a good era for Aykroyd because this is the Grosse Pointe Blank
Yeah.
era where, he's a very reliable 2-3 scenes.
I take a
Well,
lot of
it's really
pot
just
shots
those
at
two
him because
movies.
it's very easy to make fun of Dan Aykroyd.
It's easy.
And then I've seen
He's
listeners
a big target.
be like, why does Griffin hate Dan Aykroyd so much? And I'm like, I love Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd means so much to me. It is so easy to make fun of all of the various weird things about him.
I don't think Dan Aykroyd would even be like, he knows he's silly.
No, when we did our Ghostbusters commentary, people were like getting defensive at Aykroyd as if I was like not giving him enough credit. But even like you and I talked about it when we saw Frozen Empire, and you're like, there are like a couple scenes in the middle of that where Aykroyd makes you feel like it's a real movie.
I like that movie.
Just because you're like, this guy cares about Ghostbusters so fucking much.
It's a good movie.
Yeah,
I
just
like
think
it.
Him
Do
and
you
this.
like Ghostbusters Frozen Empire? Speak on this. You probably
Have you seen
I
it?
haven't seen it.
It's like kind of fun garbage.
It's kind of good.
I like Carrie Coon though. Glad she's in the Ghostbusters.
I will say
franchise.
this. I'm glad she's in the
She is
Ghostbusters
on
franchise.
Fuego in that first one.
Yes. Here's what she does in Ghostbusters
She doesn't
Frozen
do too
Empire.
much.
Folds laundry.
Yeah, she's kind of out of the action in
And
that
goes,
one.
guys, come on.
Can I tell you that this film got 1 award nomination in total?
Was it the Teen Choice Awards?
It was a Teen Choice Award nomination.
Okay.
But what was it for?
Best wig.
Best song?
That best wig would be an outrage. Best song actually does make sense. No, it was nominated in one of my favorite categories, Wipeout Scene of the Summer. You gotta love the Teen Choice Awards.
Which scene?
Well, I'm
Is
assuming
the
it doesn't
library-
say,
the
but I'm
library
assuming
in
it's him.
Pratfall?
Oh, the
Yeah.
literal wipeout.
Yeah, taking a header
Down the stairs.
down the
Wipeout
stairs
Scene
or
of the
whatever.
Summer.
Did it win?
No, it did not.
What did it lose to in the year
Let me tell you the
2000?
other nominees, and
Okay.
we're gonna just have to figure out what the
Yeah.
Wipeout.
Or
scenes
wait,
might
no,
have been.
Griffin, do you want to guess?
Well, I'm trying to think because Blue Crush was 2001.
Not Blue Crush.
Right. I'm saying it wouldn't have qualified.
Blue Crush, a film that is shouted out in Chandler's film, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Love
I remember.
Yeah.
Love.
Look at
Because
that.
Chandler's film really, it's like 2001, 2000, right? It's like you're right there.
It's-
in that
yeah, Loser
early
could have been
2000s,
one
which
of the
Loser is one of
things.
these movies.
If you're a blank check listener and you haven't watched I Like Movies,
If you want to see a movie about Griffin Newman,
well, yeah, there's a reason I like this film a lot.
yes.
Because it indicts me in the way that all movies should.
Yes.
But also, I'm just like, just filled with fucking catnip for people with our kinds of brains and grew up in that era
lovingly
of film culture.
recreate
That's
Yes.
very sweet.
the
Yeah.
feeling of a video store at that time as
Yes.
well. Anyway, but not Blue Crush. One is there's another, I'm not going to get to the winner.
Yeah.
There's another out and out big broad comedy that was a huge hit, unlike Loser.
In the year 2000, The Nutty Professor 2, The Clumps.
You're so close.
I'm so close. Is it a 2?
No, but it's a
Is it a fast
popular
food
black comedian dresses as a woman movie.
Big Mama's House?
Oh,
And the other is an action movie.
A Knight's Tale?
No, a full-on
that's
serious
2001
action
as well.
movie.
It's full on serious action from the year 2000. It's not The Perfect Storm. That's a pretty big wipeout.
That would be funny if they were like Biggs falling down the stairs and then it's like Clooney being like, "This is it!" It's like a wave demolishes them.
or like Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, fits the
It
definition.
is not
Yeah.
those two films. It is a film that the sequel is in theaters right now.
It's a film where the sequel is in theaters, right?
I mean, the many parts.
Is it
later
Mission
sequel.
Impossible 2?
Mission Impossible 2. I don't know what the Wipeout is.
Yeah.
It's not telling me.
These are kind of adult movies for the Teen Choice Award.
Good
Yeah.
point. Well,
How
the winner
many teens
is
are watching Big Mama's House?
Speaking of R-rated comedies, the winner is an R-rated comedy that was not as big a hit as I think they wanted it to be. It was still a bigger
Okay.
hit than Loser.
Okay. It was an R-rated comedy. So bigger hit than Loser.
Yep.
Perhaps was a little disappointed. Was it Me, Myself, and Irene?
There you go.
There we go.
I knew you'd get it right from that.
Yeah.
Now, again, I don't remember the wipeouts in that movie.
I don't either. There's a part where he throws himself down a hill, which I have to
Sounds
mountain
like
is
something Carrie would do.
That movie is not my cup of tea.
That movie is awful.
I am, I really try to be a Farrelly Brothers apologist, and there are a lot of them I can't even make up apologies for. That movie makes me uncomfortable.
It does.
It makes me
an incredibly nasty
itchy.
movie.
What's the premise again?
It's Jim Carrey is a cop, a nice guy.
One of the most cucked men in America, basically. Right. The premise is that this guy's been cucked so long and so hard and has suppressed all of his rage. And just goes well, okay.
He has 3 giant black sons because his wife kept cheating on him.
With Tony Cox.
Okay. So it's Anthony Anderson, and I can't rember who else. I think
Omar Benson Miller might be one of the 3.
There is a very funny scene I remember where he loves his kids, which I do like. He's a very loving father to these giant
and the kids
boys.
Are good in it.
Where they're all watching Chris Rock, and Jim Carrey goes, "This is one funny motherfucker."
But he says it this is one funny motherfucker. He's this really nice guy who everyone pushes over, and he basically experiences a psychotic break. And this split personality takes over who's his bad side.
Who's evil.
Right. And he's got a...
He kind of switches between
them.
Renee
Zellweger's a witness in a crime, and she's out on bail or whatever.
Fuck, I'm sorry I asked.
He's got to bring her back. It's a road trip movie, and he's switching between the 2 guys.
But it's a nasty R-rated movie.
Yeah.
It's them going for another There's Something About Mary, but it's very acidic and mean.
It's Gerard Mixon, who's Weensy in Old School.
Cool.
That's who I was thinking of. Okay.
I just remember the only other scene is when he's staring at a boy drinking a milkshake, and he switches into the evil mode, and he goes, "What are you looking at, fucker?" And the boy drops the milkshake. It's seared in my brain.
There's also a scene where he sees a woman nursing a baby, and then Renee Zellweger walks out and goes "What?" And then it cuts, and he's there sucking on her breast. It's this is the movie is really...
But
that's the kind of thing where I'm that can't have been in a studio comedy, but yes, it was.
But that's also the kind of demean that Heckerling's trying to play in.
She
has to be part of this milieu.
But that 100%. Movie feels we're just talking about the American Pie sequel thing where the Farrelly brothers are just fuck, how do we top ourselves, right? We just made Something About Mary, and we had the zipper, and we had the hair gel, and we had the dog. We had these moments that people couldn't stop talking about. And there are these moments in that movie that are so overly conceived, but also aren't funny and make you feel sick. Yeah. Loser. I was going to say, the reason I guessed it was a Teen Choice Award nominee is I feel the Teen Choice Awards would often nominate movies that came out that same summer.
Yeah, it was arranged with the studios.
But also clear that they were nominating from the trailer and being we hope that by the time the ceremony happens, this movie will have been a hit.
And they're watching the trailer, they're I guess there's a choice wipeout. I don't know. I mean, choice wipeout must have been one of those things where they were we need categories.
Yes.
Jennifer Love Hewitt has to introduce her new show. What can she present? Get me some wipeouts.
Time of My Life.
Yes.
Yeah.
The film made $15 million domestically.
Not great.
Got negative reviews.
Came out in July?
Yeah, it came out in late July 21st.
Gave it a pretty prime.
Not a bad slot.
Wait, we're done talking about the movie?
No, not necessarily. What do you want to say about the movie?
Well, I'm checking in. I mean, I'm fine with it.
Here's the thing I want to say.
Ben's
it just seemed like you were getting off the highway.
Yeah, there are a couple things I want to say. Thank you for reminding me, Ben.
Jesus, Ben, we were almost off the highway.
Ben, get back. David, get back on the highway.
Rerouting.
Any movie that has people being nice to animals, Ben loves,
yes.
right?
Sure.
Oh, that's so nice, Ben.
We're watching this together. They set up this insane conceit, right?
It's insane.
What you think is going to be the apartment-esque thing of how does this guy have a room that has some value? It's these 3 guys fuck with him so hard, and then they want him kicked out of their room. So they bring him to the dorm,
he gets the only room available, which is, I think it's supposed to be the room a vet student would get.
It's insane.
I guess it's in an animal hospital.
I'm watching this knowing it's riffing on the apartment, and I go, oh, this is a pretty smart way to justify why a character has a solo room. Right? These guys fuck with him, and he smartly goes I'll own it. I'll say that the things they're accusing me of doing are true so I can get out of here. And these guys can be gone from the movie.
Right.
And I think he's just going to get a small solo room that everyone's going to take advantage of.
Right.
Instead, they put him in a room in the back of a vet's office that is fully operational.
Not only operational, they're like, and you have to like give the dogs medicine.
There's fucking cages in his room.
He becomes like a full veterinarian by the end of the movie.
And it's
he knows how to like
of a good
remove a membrane from a newborn kid.
Yes.
Right. That he like knows how, and he's like, no, that's like Sally, she needs her pills, or you know, like there's like a snake. Or
there's
whatever.
not even any other vets working there by the end of the movie.
Doesn't make a lot.
He just
when he
is
first,
operating the whole clinic by himself.
When he first walks in there, it's like Animal Hospital, and there's like 1,000 things happening, and then every other time for the rest of the movie, the place is fucking empty. It's a ghost
You got
town.
this, right?
Yeah.
There's like 20 cats and dogs that live here.
They're giving him the walkthrough, and Ben goes, "Oh, what the fuck?" And I go, "What? What just happened, Ben?" And he goes, "They're just in the background of the shot. You see someone doing surgery on a hat, and their hands are all bloody."
Yeah.
And Ben's like wriggling in his chair, and he's like, "I can't watch this."
Right. It's like he's watching like eye surgery or something.
Right.
Like he's freaking out.
And
okay.
he's basically like, if this keeps happening and they don't justify it and it doesn't pay off in some way, I'm going to be so against this movie.
Sure.
And then I see him pick up the cat. And I'm like, Ben, what if he adopts the cat? What if he becomes a nice cat dad? That would start to win you over. And Ben's sort of smiling. And you're like, what they decide instead is he becomes the best cat doula?
Yeah, he's right. He's good with animals, but he doesn't really adopt one.
No.
Yeah.
But I think it's a thing, too, that Mina Savari likes having all those kittens around.
She does, but also she's not adopting them. She's just sort of like, how are they doing?
She doesn't have a home, so she can't bring one to Greg Kinnear. This already.
I just had this moment where I said to my wife, like, and I was like, I hate that I have to say this out loud, but I don't think this would happen. But I just like, there was just a thought of me where I was like, I had to express like, this isn't a thing that would happen.
No, and there's like a certain kind of like
such a spoil sport.
Yes, there's a certain kind of like 80s New York, like when I first moved here, I paid $40 a month and I slept in a cot in the back of a vet's office.
Right, I had to sleep like a bat.
I do not believe that NYU says, you know where we can put you?
Even 90s NYU.
Right. That just doesn't fucking happen. And what I believe even less is that the three demons come up behind him and they're like, hey, so
good point. Yes.
Run of luck. I don't know if you heard, but one guy died in our dorm of alcohol poisoning. He had a hemorrhage, I think they say.
They say he fell into a coma, but then there's a joke that he jumped out of a window, and Jimmy Simpson's like, yeah, he fell into a coma, which I thought was kind of funny.
Jimmy Simpson's good.
Jimmy Simpson's funny.
Yeah. And so
he's your guy, Chandler.
Said
he was your guy.
I love him.
He rules.
Yeah. I love him in Zodiac.
He's great in Zodiac. Good in Zodiac. Debs. He's good in Debs.
Yeah, Debs.
We never talk about Debs.
Let's talk about it.
But these guys are like, we can't party in our dorm anymore because of this fucking inconvenient death.
Right.
So they convince Jason Biggs to let them throw parties in an active vet's office. It
doesn't make any sense that they would want to.
I'm just like, he would never talk to these guys ever again. Sadowski's like, well, we didn't tell you this was all, we were all in on this together. We thought you knew. This is so we could have more party space. By the way, we're hanging up lights. And you're like, like fucking like animals have to be operated on here on a daily basis. And then he just has to clean all of it up. And then that's where Mina Savari starts living with him. It's so bizarre.
This movie is 95 minutes long.
Just give him a room.
I realize us describing it makes it sound like The Sorrow and the Pity. Like, it's like, it's got a lot of stuff happening.
It does.
It does, and yet, does it?
It lacks connective tissue, so the stuff kind of just happens one after the other. And and then, as we've referenced, it ends with like, and then Biggs and Savari got together, and you're like, okay, what happened to everyone else? They're like, Kinnear went to jail. The three guys, don't worry, they're all fucked up. Like it tries to like do jokey, Legally Blonde style, like post credits.
The awful fates befell all of them.
Right.
And then it ends on a horrible joke about Mina Savari no longer needs to sell her eggs.
Oh,
She's saving them for Paul.
Right, he has dibs.
They're all Paul's. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh Jesus, a little bit.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of an oh Jesus.
Chandler, we've been talking about how it is like kind of a forgotten thing that the 90s and the early 2000s were quietly a better time for female directors in the studio system than now or basically any other era. It was not a great time, but there was this odd wave of like 10 female directors who would get to make
there were more
comedies
movies
with A-list comedians and like launch careers and got healthy budgets. And you had like Tamara Davis and Betty Thomas and Amy Heckerling and
Nora Ephron
and like Myers kicking off, but even like Martha Coolidge still doing shit. Like all
Penny
these,
Marshall.
Penny Marshall was, I mean, as you said, is the example of like was able to level up, was able to like have her high concept movie that got an Oscar nomination that let her make more serious films and everything.
Yeah, like I think SNL, like especially there, that was like a great breeding ground for a lot of female filmmakers.
Well, Tamara Davis basically made this thing. Penelope Spheris, obviously, the other big one.
Penelope Spheris.
But a lot of those like SNL comedy pipeline people, those movies were made by women. And Tamara Davis like had this thing where it's like, oh, she's known at helping comedians establish their movie star persona in the transition from TV to film. And she's making like CB4 and Billy Madison. And it's like, these are the people who like get to, you know, and in a lot of these cases, I feel like, what was it? Well, she makes Crossroads.
She made Crossroads. She made Half Baked. Let's not forget.
Oh yeah, she made Half Baked.
It's also the same thing. It's them being like, can you figure out how to make
Here are
Chappelle
some
a movie
comedians
star?
who are kind of known. Yes.
And made a masterpiece.
I mean, it's pretty good.
It did feel like what would
It's
often
very
happen
good.
was when those people swung and were like, I want to make something a little more dramatic, they were like, your career is kind of over now, right? Like Betty Thomas makes 28 Days. And they're like, no one wanted to see your drunk Sandra Bullock movie. If you want to work again, you have to make The Squeakquel. Like all those people kind of just had their careers like taper off, but they did have like 15-year runs of getting to make.
Mimi Leader is the biggest example too.
Oh yeah,
where
of
like
course.
Mimi Leader is like a huge enough filmmaker or TV person, right? That she gets the two big action movies.
Yeah.
And they both do okay.
Yeah.
But Deep Impact just underperforming, I guess, compared to Armageddon.
It was a big hit.
Was
just
a hit.
Armageddon outgrossed it.
And then she makes Pay It Forward, which is the same thing of like,
Right.
okay, I'm going to make a serious drama. Now, to be fair,
Yeah.
Pay It Forward is bad.
Mhm.
But then it is just kind of like, right, like you're saying, strike 1, 2, and 3
Yeah.
all just happened to you.
It all happened. I
Yes.
do think if a female director makes a mistake, it is 3 strikes and 1.
Karen Kusama is another one, obviously. I mean, we're talking.
And we were talking about like the sort of like last 8 years, like the future of film is female. Look at these women making big movies again. Most of the examples are people who were actresses first,
Yeah,
and their careers kind of like hit a wall after 2.
You mean like
like Elizabeth Banks.
And
or
Olivia
Maggie
Wilde.
Gyllenhaal, or yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean Maggie Gyllenhaal's getting to make a big movie now, but already there's so much hand wringing of like, why did they give her money to make this?
Whoa. That's what
Yeah,
people
it's
sound
also like those $20 million studio comedies just do not exist anymore.
That's what it is. There were more movies. There was
Yeah.
right. There was more of a middle ground movie that you could make, and so right there was more space to make a comedy or a Half Baked.
I also think there's like a
28
really
Days.
insipid thing going on, which is for a while it was like, well, we don't make low or mid-budget movies anymore. We're only making $200 million movies. We can't hire women to direct those because they don't have experience making movies like this. Then there started being pushback to that. They started hiring very selectively
Sure.
and infrequently women to make those movies. And then when they wouldn't work, they'd be like, well, that's why you can't hire women to direct these things. And it's like you
Yeah.
set up this person to fail. And
Well,
then
it's like because it's like the Nomad Land to
Totally.
whatever that. What was the
Eternals.
Eternals pipeline?
Eternals.
Where it's like, wow, she got to choose an actual sky. She's a realtor in the Marvel universe.
someone
Natural light.
on
She sure
our
did.
Reddit recently called out, they were re-listening to our Wonder Woman 1984 episode.
Good movie.
And I
It is
said,
a good movie.
like,
Thank you.
there is something kind of encouraging about the fact that this movie is hated. And yet, Patty Jenkins has 3 big movies set up, and it feels like no one's holding it against her as like a career ruiner. And yet, we are now 5 years later. all 3 of those movies are dead.
She did.
She has nothing new set up.
Right. I mean, she did make the mistake, of course, of trying to make a Star Wars movie, the hardest kind of movie to make now.
Look, I'll say this. If you don't want
the Cleopatra movie, which is also historically the hardest kind of movie
that
to
movie's
if
never
your
getting
goal
made.
is to never direct a film, I
Attaches
highly
up to Star
encourage
Wars
you.
and Cleopatra.
Yes. If directing a movie sounds like a nightmare, please go in and meet on Cleopatra and Untitled Star Wars
What's the
project.
third thing she was attached to?
Wonder Woman 3.
That's coming, right? Very soon. I see it on the horizon.
What were you going to say, Chandler?
Oh, I was going to ask about Netflix and like streaming services, and if kind of like a loser would now just be like a Netflix original or like straight to Tubi
28
or
days, like you're talking about.
I do,
any of these
I
things.
do think that is the majority of like a lot of YA movies or like sort of low budget streaming comedies.
Like, Kiernan Shipka, America's most hardest working actress. She's in everything.
Yeah.
She had some I haven't watched it yet. What was it called? I'm looking it up. Sweethearts. That's like some rom-com. I haven't seen it yet. Where it's her and some guy.
Nico Haraga.
There you go.
That movie with Caitlin Dever and
Booksmart.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
And it was directed by a woman, written and directed by a woman.
Okay.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
A couple people have sort of said to me like, "Hey, that movie was kind of fun," and I'm like, "Oh, well, when did it come out?" They're like, "Straight to Max," at Thanksgiving last year.
Mm-hmm.
They all just go straight to Max now, or straight to Hulu, or straight to
And a lot of them get a little lost. Yeah.
A little lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like you're become like a tentpole studio comedy director and you work with like the comedians of like your generation.
No.
You kind of like, it's like fifth build on Stranger Things.
Right.
Who is
you
the
get the 8
comedian of our
million.
generation?
Who is the comedian of our generation?
Like, who are the comedians
we
who
were
are not getting the half?
We were talking about this the other day.
I guess
but
Nate
like,
Bargatze's like making
Bargatze's
a movie
got
now.
a fucking Sony movie set up with a good
Right.
supporting cast, and we're all sort of like,
Is that
can
it?
he fucking figure it out?
Right. He's
And
figured
he did
everything
this
else out.
interview where he's like, I might, like, if I can make movies work, I might, like, wind down on stand-up and start moving over to movies.
Right. Although he's also like, I'm going to have a theme park.
Yeah.
I guess
He's saying some
Apatow was
stuff.
doing it.
He was doing it.
He was like his own pipeline. He was like
would pick a
Trainwreck,
comedian.
King
Right.
of Staten
But
Island.
he had built the, like, Apatow Industrial Complex, which I talk about so much, basically was like a proto-comedy version of the MCU thing, where he would, like, test supporting actors out in movies to like seed the idea of them being the lead in the next thing.
Totally. Yeah.
Where you were
Yeah.
like introducing in each movie.
Hey, did you enjoy Seth Rogen in
right,
40-Year-Old Virgin?
You're going to be the next waves of people. And then
Right.
he just like slowed way down, started doing more TV.
But
made
like
one of the great
zero
movies.
women in that universe, like in terms of directing. Like it's like Paul
Yeah.
Feig, Nick
Yeah.
Stoller, whatever other guys.
Yeah.
I mean, he made Girls.
He did, but this is a good question. Did he ever produce a movie directed by a woman, period?
Probably he produced so many. Maybe not, though.
Maybe not.
Maybe.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I don't
Dunham
wanna
was his
drag-
big one, but it was on TV. Yeah.
It
certainly.
was kind of at the behest of like a lot of criticism after like the fallout of Knocked Up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Well,
I
but-
mean, I think Bridesmaids was as well, of just like, okay, note taken. Yeah. I'm just scanning through now to look at the
It's a lot of movies.
Apatow
man.
movies.
Some good.
Quite a few. I like quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Not all of them, though.
I don't think there's
Don't see
one feature film directed by a
please.
woman.
Is that true? Oh my
yeah.
god!
I'm just like double checking here.
Right, because Big Sick. That's
Showalter.
Look, what's important is
Judd
the
Apatow.
bubble.
Please hire me. If you're
Yes,
doing
exactly.
Yeah. Yep, that's what's important. Yeah. What's important is that The Bubble is a trenchant work
it.
about a difficult time in American history.
the Bubble might be the most unwatchable like comedy ever made because of what it's about.
Chandler
Beyond,
asked me-
also it not being very good.
Chandler asked me, have you guys ever talked about doing Apatow? And I say, we talk about it all the time. We think it'd be fun. The problem is, I feel confident in saying that if we cover him, The Bubble will be the worst movie we've ever talked about
It's-
on this podcast.
It's down there. It's down
It's
there.
way down in the pits of hell. And I would like to see him make
Anything else.
literally
He's
anything else.
working on something, right?
You get to end with all the nice Gary Shandling documentaries, though. And
Well, that's
Those
the
are
other
all
thing. How do we
8
cover
hours
his
long.
fucking 8 hour? What was the thing he just announced? Because they had announced he was going to do the Coke versus Pepsi movie, but then there's
what?
something else that superseded that
Oh
that
my
sounded a
God.
little more interesting. Maybe
That sounds like the Pop Tarts movie.
It
What
was
is
kind
interesting
of-
about Coke versus Pepsi? They both are fine. They make soda.
Right.
Ben just woke up.
The announcement was that he and Glenn Powell are working on something.
That's fun.
That they
That's
are
good.
writing something together that Powell would star in and Apatow would direct.
Okay.
What if Glenn Powell's in Loser? Hey, guys. What? He's like a little, country boy.
Well, you'd also buy this kid is getting picked on so much if it were, 11-year-old Glenn Powell
I don't think he was. I'm going to look.
in the year 2000?
Glenn Powell would have been
14?
Oh, he would have been 12.
Okay.
Oh, so sweet.
Wow, Glenn Powell's like basically my age.
I know,
It's
right?
one of those things where I look at him, I'm like, that's a grown man, not like me.
God, I had one of those recently that flipped me out. I mean, I had the experience watching Old School where there's a scene where Luke Wilson is like, we can't start a fraternity. I'm 30, for God's sake. And I was like, oh my fucking
So
Lord.
much younger than me.
Isn't that terrible? Like when I watch like old Sex and the City episodes
Yeah.
and Carrie Bradshaw's like 34 and they're
Right.
like, your life is over. And I'm like, oh.
I know the math doesn't add up, but I watch Old School and I'm like, yeah, Vince Vaughn is 67 in this
It
movie.
is how I am. I mean, it's how I am with athletes too, where like a famous athlete, I'm still like, well, that person's older than me. And it's like, no, they're not. They're like 25.
Yeah.
Like they're so much younger than me. But I'm like, yeah, no, but look at them succeed and
Right.
achieve on a grand scale.
Right.
That's what grown-ups do, not me.
Yes. Yes.
Loser came out on July 21st. In the year 2000.
Mhm.
It was a pre 9/11
Yeah,
time.
2000. I
Thank
hit
you.
that note better than the fucking Teenage Dirtbag.
It opened at number 8,
Not
which I imagine was disappointing.
fantastic. Yeah.
Now
Now, you said we've done this
we've
weekend
done this one before.
Main feed or Patreon?
Main feed, the number one at the box
think of
office,
what it would
opening
be.
to $29 million, is a thriller with movie stars. in
Is it the movie we covered?
It is.
It is called What Lies Beneath.
What
There we
Lies
go.
Beneath?
There
You've
we
seen
go.
Robert Zemeckis' What Lies Beneath,
I have.
and what do you think of it?
I was really scared when I watched it in the back room of Blockbuster.
That's pretty scary.
Or
It is
it's
scary.
intense.
It's not a film.
Good
not
Harrison
bad.
Ford performance.
Great to see Ford playing a grump.
You were
Who's
telling
evil.
me it's not quite the Castaway thing, but you're like in the late stages of post-production on a movie you just shot
Yes.
and active last minute of
So
pre-production
there's another movie.
on a movie that is going to start shooting in 2 weeks. You're in that kind of cool Zemeckis Spielberg.
I'm in my Schindler's List,
calling
Jurassic
up-
Park.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I need.
okay.
Yeah, I do have a George Lucas that needs to help me finish my
Yeah,
color
Right,
correct tomorrow.
exactly.
You know who you
Right.
should ask to do that? George Lucas.
It's fucking chilling out.
Yeah.
I'm in
Same.
such a Star Wars phase.
You've been back in love with Star Wars.
I'm back in love because of Andor. It's so good.
Yeah.
And it's so understands like what is good about Star Wars in a way that some recent Star Wars properties maybe have struggled to tap.
Mhm.
And so I'm just thinking about Star Wars all the time. And I'm just back to thinking about George Lucas being a crazy guy.
You still haven't
You know-
watched that new ILM doc
No, I
season,
gotta
right?
watch that.
It's so good.
I'll
and
watch it when I'm done
Joe
with Andor.
Johnston directed it. So he's the one doing all the interviews,
Well,
right?
that rocks.
It rules.
Yeah,
And he
that
got
guy.
a lot of good time with George. And he has such a history with George, and George
Right.
clearly
He
respects him.
actually knows George. Sure.
So he's talking 25 years later about the response to Jar Jar, right? In an episode that
Whoa.
like has a lot of Ahmed Best and him talking about his suicide attempt and is like the most bracing version of like trying to
God
tackle
bless
the
him
Jar
for
Jar response.
running at that. Right.
Truly.
Yeah.
Right? And Ahmed was sort of like, I didn't really feel like anyone knew how to protect or support me during that, right? And they cut to George and they're sort of like, didn't you try to help him at this time? And he was like, I just told him, I mean, when the original film came out, everyone hated it. And 25 years, they'll all like it. And look, see, I was right. And Joe Johnston's like, but this was kind of different. And he
yeah,
and George's response is, when the original film came out, everyone felt the same way about C-3PO. And Joe Johnston, this is the value of him directing.
he's like,
immediately
no.
pushes back from behind camera and goes, George, I don't think anyone reacted that way to C-3PO. And he goes, oh, really? Okay, well, here's an example. And then he says the Ewoks teddy bear thing.
Which is
And everyone's
closer.
like, sure.
Yeah.
But the difference here is that Ahmed Best is like a guy who people kept shit talking. Like no one was attacking Warwick Davis on the same level. Anyway,
he was 11 years old, Warwick Davis.
that thing's amazing.
You know who's good?
Warwick Davis?
Wicket.
Wicket's one of my best friends.
I think Wicket's great.
I
and
love
I'm
him.
going to watch all the Star Wars movies again. I'm just telling you guys this. It's
Congrats.
10:15 at night or whatever.
You gonna try it with your daughter?
I don't think so. I don't know. I think she's too young for
I
it.
don't know.
But I'm just going to watch them all again.
Okay.
And I'm just excited to meet Wicket. I've just been thinking about Wicket.
Yeah, you know who else I love?
Who?
Chief Chirpa.
He's all right. I'm really focused on Wicket's got this little butt.
What about Tebow?
Do you care about Star Wars?
I like the Empire Strikes Back.
It's a good movie.
Do you have a pitch on what your canceled Star Wars movie would be?
Would it be
Chandler?
about Wicket's little butt?
What do you mean? What's it canceled?
Well, I'm saying now
everyone's got a Star Wars
right,
project.
99 out of 100 announced Star Wars projects are guaranteed to never be made.
They like bring people out and they're like, "Star, what are you making?" They're like, "I don't know. It's gonna have ships or
You know who's
lightsabers or something."
a little cutie? BB-8
Hey,
Bring him back.
I honestly
Roll
think
that fucker out.
I think
or Baby Yoda. Come on.
Well, he's
got a movie coming.
Didn't he go to Hawaii?
He's got a 3 picture. Oh, Grogu goes Hawaiian.
That sounds great.
Really good.
Grogu's got a little cocktail with an
I
umbrella.
do feel like BB-8
Like
is getting a little forgotten.
yeah, bring him back out. Everything from those movies is getting forgotten.
You know what? He kind of had a Mina Savari moment where everyone was like, "This guy's gonna be working forever."
You like that
Kevin
we're still
Spacey
talking about
loves
this, right?
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what people forget about? You got to keep, what is it called?
The coaxium.
Coaxium cold.
People forget that. You
I'm
need
gonna
to
watch
keep
Solo.
it really cold.
Are you gonna
Do you
get that
remember this?
coaxium water bottle?
Sure.
Put it in the freezer?
Oh, I was just
do
asking
you know about coaxium?
Chandler, if you remember about keeping coaxium
Coaxium's
cold.
the
No,
MacGuffin.
I'm a woman, so
Women don't touch.
Yeah.
Women don't pick up the check. They don't open doors, and they don't handle coaxium.
Those are the rules.
my gentleman callers can handle the coaxium.
Exactly.
The MacGuffin in Solo, a Star Wars story, is a substance called coaxium that has to be kept very cold. And it was David's favorite bit for a while.
Because it's
The intensity of you need to keep it cold, assuming that it was a thing that was going to be forgotten by everyone else. And then they open this like fucking $500 million Millennium Falcon ride at Disney World, and the whole ride is based
nobody
around
really
coaxium.
liked.
Really?
The ride's a flop. They
Right.
keep saying, you gotta get the coaxium. And now they're making coaxium merchandise. Ben, there's literally a newly released coaxium water bottle so you can keep your beverages cold like coaxium.
Brilliant.
I'm not
Keep it cold.
That's
shitting.
dope.
Number 2 at the box office.
Yeah.
It's a film that I'm sure you saw in theaters.
Chicken
I
Run.
sure did.
Chicken Run?
No.
Fuck.
That's number 9 at the box
Okay.
office.
Right. That was more of a June, maybe May release.
It is. It's made $100 million in 2 weeks.
Was it the motion picture X-Men?
X-Men.
Yeah. Not only did I see
You
that in
check
theaters,
that one out.
that was my personality for the year leading up to and following its release.
You ever seen Bryan Singer's X-Men?
Of course.
A normal movie made by a normal man.
This is amazing to watch in person
Oh, the
after
box office
hearing it for
Oh,
so
sure.
long. After the listeners, it's electrifying.
People always say this, right? That I think people who have listened to the show assume, oh, they must be cutting parts out in between the clue and the guess.
No.
You do just see my eyes roll back,
Yep.
and then the
You
answer
just
comes
Yeah,
go
out.
it's-
mentat mode.
Yeah,
It's like Leonard Maltin's movie, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying.
yeah.
It's the whole. I meet with book people sometimes. Like, what do you want to write? And I'm like, I really just want to write Leonard Maltin's movie guide. And they're like, there's no purpose for those books to exist anymore. And I'm like, I know.
And let's maybe investigate what went wrong in our culture, when and how and why, to make that the case.
Stupid internet. X-Men doing great.
Yeah.
It
Was a big hit.
was a big hit.
Mhm.
Bigger hits were to follow, of course.
Yeah.
But it's the start of something. Here's a question:
In 3
Is
years,
Greg
the
Kinnear?
X-Men would unite.
They would.
Yeah.
Is Greg Kinnear more evil than Magneto and/or Harrison Ford in What Lies Beneath? I would say yes.
I would say yes. He's more pretentious and annoying.
Yes.
And yet he's the 4th most evil character in the movie.
Right, exactly. He's not even right. He's probably below the fucking dweebs.
Right. Like, he's maybe equivalent to Magneto, but the dweebs are equivalent to Apocalypse, Mr. Sinister, and Holocaust.
There you go. Remember Holocaust?
I knew you were going to be happy with the Holocaust.
What do
poll.
they retell? They retell Nemesis, I think. They introduced a character in the mid-90s called Holocaust.
And then they were
people
like,
you can't fucking call a villain Holocaust. And they're like, all right, sorry.
Dude, they just backtracked it. His
He's
name's always been Nemesis.
Nemesis. Number 3 at the box office is another film. I was there opening weekend.
In theaters.
I was buying a ticket for this film. It's a sequel.
Was this the opening weekend?
It sure is. It's new this week. It's opening to $19.5 million.
Well, it's not Nutty Professor to the Clumps.
No, it's an animated film. It's a
an
sequel.
Animated sequel in the year 2000.
Yes.
The year 2000.
And it opened
Ben did it too.
20.
Yep.
Man, it's not a Disney picture.
No.
Is it from the fine folks at Fox?
It's being distributed by Warner Brothers, but I think it was a pay-to-play.
Okay. This is a movie you definitely saw opening weekend,
yes.
and I did not.
No.
It is called Pokemon the Movie 2000.
That's correct. I believe the actual title is Pokemon, The Power of One. But for American audiences, they called it Pokemon the Movie 2000, in case you didn't know what year it was.
So you were there opening weekend to get the trading card.
I certainly was for the first two. I didn't see Pokemon 3 in theaters.
There was
ever.
I think by 3 they go to Miramax.
Sure.
Maybe Warner Brothers only released the first 2. They go to a meeting.
Pikachu attacks Harvey Weinstein.
Charizard.
Thunderbolt.
Flame broils Bob Weinstein's ass.
My daughter has a pair of Pokemon pajamas that I don't know where they even came from. I think they're hand-me-downs from someone. Maybe Asa, honestly.
Okay.
And so now she will keep being like, "Who's this?" And I'm like,
Are there multiple different Pokemon?
There's 6 Pokemon on her PJs.
Name the big 6.
Well, obviously the big 3.
Okay, Pikachu.
No, not Pikachu.
Charmander,
the starters.
Bulbasaur.
Squirtle.
Yeah.
And then Pikachu's there, obviously.
Is Psyduck in the mix?
No, we've got Jigglypuff.
Oh, yeah.
Who's very amusing, of course, to say. And
her recent album is really good, too. I don't know if you guys heard.
It's a Cardi B collab.
Yeah, she's kind of filling that Lana Del Rey space. And Eevee, who's a cutie pie.
Yeah.
Wait, who's your favorite Pokemon?
My favorite Pokemon, big question. It is my favorite classically is the Poliwag evolutions.
Oh.
I love
Poliwhirl,
and Poliwrath.
Yeah.
I don't talk about Politoad. No. But there's
like
a lot
Mime.
of Pokemon that
I like Mime.
Mr. Mime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's in that weird category of Pokemon where you're like, so this is a guy? Like, you know,
No.
There's like 4 Pokemon that are humans, sort of. And you're like, what's that?
Yeah.
The rest are animals.
You know what my favorite?
Who?
Ditto.
Ditto. Wow.
Ditto's pretty cool.
I would just play Ditto nonstop because I'd be like, who's gonna put up something I can't copy?
Ditto sucks. Who's your favorite Pokemon, Chandler?
It's my favorite word in the English language. Snorlax.
It's a great name.
It's a great word. It's a great name.
Snorlax is good.
Yeah.
Raising a Snorlax is impressive too. All right, number 4 at the box office is we'll do the Pokemon someday. People have been pushing for us to do theatrical Pokemon because that compresses it by a lot. Then it's just like the first 4 and Detective Pikachu or something.
Well, I want to say congrats to our listeners because apparently this show is going to run 25 years if we're getting a theatrical Pokemon.
It would be pretty funny.
Imagine you did theatrical Pokemon before Hal Hartley.
Well,
we treat theatrical Pokemon as a director series. Yeah, we do it on Main Feed.
I think 4 was the final.
That was 4 ever.
Correct. Okay. To make it to U.S. theaters.
I feel like 5 got
5 might have snuck in.
I remember
5 might have gotten a Cinema Village release.
I remember one of them making like tens of thousands of dollars in theaters. It being kind of astounding before they just started putting them all on DVD.
Right.
Yeah.
Number 4 at the box office, a huge hit from this summer. It is a comedy, a spoof film.
Oh, it's called Scary Movie.
That's right.
Oh,
it's humongous.
Yep. Is it good?
No.
I don't remember it being actually good.
No.
But important in a weird sort of a way.
Yeah.
I think it's getting a reclamation these
it makes
days.
sense.
Yeah, it
on
does.
Twitter.
I don't love it. And I like some of the Wayans brothers' work a lot, but I'm not crazy about that movie. Yeah.
Number 5 at the box office.
As much as I love Anna Faris.
Yeah, and she's funny.
And Virginia.
You can say her name slower.
I love Anna and Regina.
There you go.
I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah, I liked him.
Okay, he might come back.
The lounge singer, Griffin's new character, lounge guy. Number 5 at the box office, a film we've invoked on this episode. It is a huge hit. It's based on a bestseller. It's got movie stars.
Is it The General's Daughter?
Nope.
We booked in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a big.
Been out for a month. It's made $145 million.
Oh, it's The Perfect Storm. Yeah.
A totally good movie, like a totally solid, true story movie where everyone's got a sweater on and they all get fucking killed by a wave.
Sweater core.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You seen The Perfect Storm?
I believe I have.
Wolfgang Peterson film. Did you know that?
Mark Wahlberg.
He's there.
There's a big wave.
Clooney.
John C. Reilly.
Everyone's wet.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Mary
Elizabeth Mastrantonio
it's
and
basically
Diane
her
Lane.
Last movie though. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. She kind of disappears after that.
Mary and Diane are both like
on
radios.
Like
this storm seems pretty bad, you know? And then the boat is Clooney, Wahlberg, Riley Fichtner, and fucking like Bob Gunton, maybe. Like it's a great group of guys.
Is Master
John Hawkes too.
There we go.
John Hawkes.
Is Master Antonio like another on a different boat?
She's on a different boat.
And Diane Lane
is on shore, and she's like, she's no, she's Wahlberg's girlfriend. All right, Diane, get it.
Hey.
That movie's great though, and it is just kind of like I would like more movies like that.
Sure.
Where they were like, there was a really weird, crazy storm.
Yeah. Bring him back.
You know?
Yeah, bring him back. Also talked about in the ILM doc. There's some really interesting intel on that one.
It is an incredible movie from a visual effects perspective.
Like they were like, that was a real breakthrough movie.
I don't think like movies look better than that now in terms of like doing water shit. No. Like it's like kind of still
But it was like the one where they finally cracked the code on like physics sims and getting it right. Yeah.
Number 6 at the box office is The Kid, the Bruce Willis movie.
I don't think that's the proper
Disney's
title.
The Kid.
There we go. Disney was sued at the last second, and they had to call it Disney's The Kid to differentiate it from the Charlie Chaplin movie.
Oh my God.
That is true. Yeah.
What is that about?
It is about
Spencer Breslin is like baby Bruce Willis, who's like a vision.
It's like a weird
ghost
time travel thing where somehow
I've never heard of this film.
Child version of Bruce Willis, played by Spencer Breslin as a nerd, is now in the present with cool businessman Bruce Willis, and he has to learn to love his younger self.
It's a turtle top.
It is indeed.
Is it a body switching?
No, it's like he's an adult man in the present day, and what is presumably like 1960s child version of him suddenly just like appears at his front door.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I remember it not working.
Number 7 at the box office is The Patriot.
Oh.
Bad movie.
With Heath Ledger?
Yeah.
Heath Ledger?
Yeah.
Heath Ledger? Yep. That's what's his name? Randall Wallace movie, correct?
Well, I think Randall Wallace wrote it, but it's
a
fucking Roland Emmerich directed it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, a guy with a really good grasp on American history, as we also saw with Stonewall.
The year 2000, Mel Gibson
2000,
had The Patriot, Chicken Run, and What Women Want, and it was the first time I believe a movie star had $300 million grossers in 1 year. And not only that, Patriot had broken the record for the highest an actor had been paid upfront for a movie period.
He's the Patriot.
Could not have been more dominant.
Yep. And then he has right after that, he's got Signs.
He makes
stuff
Signs
like
2 years later, and then
We
2
Were
years
Soldiers.
after that. Oh, we Were Soldiers at the following year.
Which is okay.
Signs is 2 years later, is humongous, or 3 years later, whatever it was. And then he basically soft retires and makes a fucking Passion of the Christ.
Did that thing do okay?
I think he took a bath on it. Yeah.
8 is Loser, 9 is Chicken Run, 10 is Me, Myself, and Irene.
Wow. What are your
we already discussed.
You're at the pictures.
Number 12 at the box office new this week is a film called The In Crowd.
Oh, yeah.
What would you do to get in with the In Crowd?
Oh my God, that poster. I just had like a full Proustian
Incredible
memory.
poster.
Yeah. Who's the lineup in that one?
Blorp, Bloopy, Bloppy, Blippy. It's just made up people.
But I'm just saying,
Is it like the people from like Brendan Fair or something, like Smallville actors?
That feels
or
like one of those movies that had a like Valentine urban legend style poster with 8 actors' faces.
It's 8 faces, and
They're
it's
all
like
in
all
leather
of these
pants.
people didn't get parts on Melrose Place, but for some reason, Susan Ward.
Susan Ward, yes.
Lori.
You know Susan Ward?
She's
Susan
in I like 10 Things I Hate About You, or like Never Been Kissed. She's in one of those.
She's in Shallow Hal.
Talk about fair release.
Yeah, not a great career.
She kind of has like a sad face.
Susan Ward. Susan Ward. Lori Huring. Matthew Settle.
This was directed by Mary Lambert?
Who I like.
Yeah.
Yes,
Wow.
it is.
Wait,
Wow.
who did Pet Sematary?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, kind of a legend.
There you go.
Wow.
That's
In
the
Crowd.
Amy Heckerling trajectory.
Yeah, but man, this thing was flopping hard.
Well, yeah, what the Nathan Bexton, Tess Harper.
Yeah, these sound like
Lori
made up
Fortier.
names.
It just, you know what I mean? And that's how I felt watching Final Destination Bloodlines, which I said to you, Greg.
Yes, it's
where
great.
I'm like, I don't know a single one of these motherfuckers.
There's something kind of refreshing about it.
And then when they're going to bring in the grandma, I'm like, okay, who'd they get for the grandma? And they're like, surprise, guys. Nobody.
Some respectable working actor. But here's the other thing.
They're all good.
Everyone's good.
They're all totally good.
Like, having
I'm
just
not dissing them.
rewatched all the Final Destination movies.
Did not know who they were.
That is often the Achilles heel of those movies, where there will be someone who is like the third lead, and you're like, did this guy win a contest? Like, he got guys shooting the lens.
That's also
tripping over cables.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead in 3 is so good in it that you're like, this is almost overwhelming the movie. She's actually too locked in.
The lead woman in 2 is very good as well.
She's good. AJ Cook. She's more, I would say, in the right zone.
But Bloodlines, everyone is good.
Everyone's great.
Have you seen that movie yet?
No.
Chandler, it rules.
It's kind of rules.
Does it? I love the franchise. Glad it's back.
If you love the franchise, you will like this movie.
You will watch this one and you'll be like, oh, this is what all of these movies have been trying to be. They have finally cracked it 100%.
Is Devon Sawa in the first one?
Devon Sawa was in the first one.
I just remember there's a thing about putting something in the microwave. And there was the Mentos in like Coke or whatever.
Yep.
And there's the tanning bed, and look, we've had a lot of great kills over the years.
That was the first movie I snuck into, like that was R-rated. Yeah.
How'd you get in?
I think I went to another movie and got in. Yeah, illicit.
Devious. Loser. We discussed it.
Fucking
Jesus Christ.
Hey,
bedtime.
We had to do it. Remember like 45 minutes ago when David was like, so I think I'm ending this episode. And we go, no, that's not how things work here.
Talk like, much more about the movie.
We talked about a lot of really great stuff, and I think this was a really important episode.
I just want to say to Amy Heckerling or any of the associates, if they're listening, I love you, and you're an incredible filmmaker and inspiration for many. And please put Clueless on the Criterion Collection.
There is a 4K 30th anniversary coming out from Paramount.
Not of Loser, to be clear. Of Clueless.
Let me double check my notes here. Yes, it would be nice if it got that kind of respect on it, but it does. Everyone's sort of like crossing their fingers to see this new restoration, because I think they're also putting it back in theaters this summer.
Really?
Yeah.
Should.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Look. I don't even hate this movie because it's so weird.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I was kind of engaged by it.
Your Letterboxd log was like, this movie is vile, but I'm not sure I'm saying that as a totally a bad thing. Yeah.
Letterboxd. Deeply bizarre and kind of evil, brackets, somewhat complimentary.
Right.
Like, yes. Kind of an evil movie, though. It felt evil to me. There was an evil in this movie.
There is.
It taught me a lot about wigs and how you shouldn't make anybody wear them.
Wigs and bigs.
Wigs and bigs.
Never put a wig on Jason Biggs.
No.
Ever.
Big can't wear wigs, yeah.
He really only wears the hat for like 5 minutes.
He's in the hat a lot.
Maybe he's in it more than I remember.
But I'm like, if that's the wig, then he should never take that hat
his
off.
head.
I was so relieved anytime the hat came back, and going in, I was like, I hope he doesn't wear this fucking hat too much.
They must have done camera tests. Like, no one during the camera test was like, it's kind of an unflattering haircut.
Even beyond that, like, the lens didn't shatter when they fucking tried to point it at the wig.
Well, that's why the movie cost so much, $20 million.
They kept breaking lenses.
Yes.
But her hair is bad, too. It's so spiky.
Boom Mike's just catching on fire.
Like, who is the hairstylist?
I don't know.
Chandler, thank you for joining us.
Chandler, I Like Movies is pretty thoroughly rentable by this point.
Yeah. It played for 6 months in Japan.
Hell yeah.
Had a very successful Japanese release.
That rules.
I can understand. Yeah.
It seems like it spoke to people. Hideo Kojima loved the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
That fucking rules.
He tweeted about it, right? Yeah.
Sarah Polly,
that's
how it got on my radar for the first time. Was Sarah Polly kept like waxing poetic about it after seeing it at TIFF.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable considering it cost the price of Jason Biggs' wig.
So
Loser.
negative $1 million
for free, but be careful. It comes with a price.
Is the price good?
Your movie will suck.
It will ruin your career.
Oh my god. Oh man.
But yes, rentable, and then the film you're finishing now.
Yeah, it's called Mile End Kicks. It's my Indie Sleaze movie.
Hell yeah.
Mile End Kicks?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It stars Barbie Ferreira from Euphoria.
Hell yeah.
And Jay Baruchel.
Hey, Canadian legend.
And Devin Bostick.
Canadian legend.
Roderick.
And Stanley Simons from the Iron Claw.
Hell yeah.
And Juliet Garrett from Red Rooms.
This is a great cast.
Red Rooms, which, by the way, I mean, that movie rocks.
It's the best movie
That
ever.
movie is putting Canada on the map.
It's the best
a country of freaks.
David Fincher movie he ever made. Yeah.
Not since Maple Syrup.
Ben, I think it would freak you out, but wow.
Yeah.
It's a cool movie.
It's
you
such
might
a
dig
masterpiece.
It. Red Rooms,
Yeah.
it's called.
And
It's
Juliet
scary.
is
It's
incredible.
scary.
Oh, okay.
It's a movie about how the internet is good and normal.
Mm-hmm.
An Indie Sleaze movie is such an exciting opportunity for a soundtrack.
Oh, tell me about it.
And some haircuts.
It must be like it's almost intimidating. It feels like
It's a curse and a joy.
Yeah.
Because it's very expensive and a lot of negotiating and stuff. But we do have a Peaches song,
hell
Fuck
yeah.
the Pain Away.
Oh, you got it.
Classic.
She's generous. I wrote her like a very loving letter, and she gave us an amazing deal on it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Can I make some soundtrack suggestions quickly?
Of course.
Teenage Dirtbag, Pretty Fly for a White Guy, Blue Dubba D, Get Down Tonight.
How about She's So High? Isn't
Yeah.
that by Dal
But-
Bachman. That's
Yeah.
in this movie.
Oh yeah, What's My Age Again? Thank you for being here, Chandler.
Oh my God, it's an honor and a privilege.
A rare blank check after dark. And thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Tune in next week for one of the most normal movies we've ever covered. I Could Never Be Your Woman with the great Karen Shee returning to the show.
Hush. That's not true. Next week,
Is there a new release?
28 years later.
That's what's happening. I
Yeah.
forgot.
And then I Could Never Be Your Woman with Karen Shee,
Great.
which is great, obviously.
Yes. I'm excited to see those zombies.
Me too. What are they up to?
I don't know, but
Being
whatever
normal?
they're doing, it's going to be fast.
Visiting Miramax, maybe, much like the Pokemon.
No, we want to send all destructive forces to the Miramax offices. But tune in for that.
Yep.
Yeah. And as always,
Goodbye.
and as always, of the many things that got Ben's ire up while watching this film,
Yeah.
I think nothing pissed him off more than seeing several rows of beautifully shiny gold plush velvet seats and saying, "Is that supposed to be Webster Hall?"
Blank Check with Griffin and David is hosted by Griffin Newman and David Sims. Our executive producer is me, Ben Hosley. Our creative producer is Marie Barty Salinas, and our associate producer is AJ McKeon. This show is mixed and edited by AJ McKeon and Alan Smithy. Research by JJ Birch. Our theme song is by Lane Montgomery and the Great American Novel, with additional music by Alex Mitchell. Artwork by Joe Bowen, Ollie Moss, and Pat Reynolds. Our production assistant is Minnick. Special thanks to David Cho, Jordan Fish, and Nate Patterson for their production help. Head over to blankcheckpod.com for links to all of the real nerdy shit. Join our Patreon, Blank Check Special Features, for exclusive franchise commentaries and bonus episodes. Follow us on social at Blank Check Pod. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, Checkbook, on Substack. This podcast is created and produced by Blank Check Productions.